Hello and welcome to episode 6 on the 17th of June 2015, and this is the very first Gamers of the Lost Spark E3 special. Over the next few hours, Darren and I are going to run through the press conferences and dissect all the big news from E3 so far. We're going to go through our favourite things, the big announcements, and review the awful to the downright awesomeness. So let's get things started. Let's kick this off. And the first one was very early Monday morning, and that was Bethesda. And they kicked things off, and oh boy, did they kick things off. So
wow, so you were a bit of a trooper there, Anthony, weren't you? You were there, awake, and watching it live. I took the lazy option. I was probably fast asleep. So did any of the announcements shake you out of that sleepy sort of dreamy state you were in?
My sleepy slumber, absolutely. I set my alarm for 3 o'clock. I was going to watch the final episode of Game of Thrones, but I didn't. I watched that a bit later. But so I set my alarm for 3 o'clock. I was very sleepy, but then they kicked off with Doom. Now, I know, I should love Doom because it's one of the founding fathers of gaming. But I've kind of moved on from that. But then they started showing Doom, and it woke me up straight away, and I was just grinning. It was my first big grin of E3. Wow. This is a fast-paced Doom. It looks incredible. And they had the shotguns were there. They were showcasing all of the guns. They showed a couple of levels, and it looked incredible. It looked really good. I'd love to kind of get into it and just kind of have a play with it because it just looked incredible.
Did you feel that it was grounded in the original Doom, or was it more like a whole new thing?
Oh no, very much kind of in the same ilk as the original Doom. It was there. Whoever's doing this, it's a passion project, no doubt, and you could tell.
Fantastic. So that got your blessing, did it then?
It did indeed. It was kind of one of those ones where you just knew that this was going to be a good E3 because it started so well. And then after that, Bethesda they really did it well. This was their very first press conference. And after that, they then went on to Dishonored. So the Dishonored Definitive Edition. They didn't spend too long about that. That was just you can play this coming to PS4 and Xbox and PC. But then what they wanted to show was Dishonored 2. So they showed some gameplay footage of Dishonored 2, and they had a female protagonist for Dishonored. You can play either, so you can play the original character from Dishonored 2, or you can also play this new female character, and it looked fantastic. It looked like Dishonored, but just a shinier version.
Yeah, I really liked Dishonored. I loved the first one. I played on the Xbox 360, and I remember the trailers for that when they were shown by Bethesda. They just looked so amazing, and I mean, the 360 one was cut back quite a bit graphically because it had to be. But the PC demonstrations, they looked stunning at the time. I was really amazed. And I did enjoy it on 360, but what I was thinking about was the Definitive Edition on consoles is going to give console gamers an opportunity to play the original Dishonored either equally or maybe even slightly better than it was on a high-end PC back in the day, which I think's really cool.
Absolutely, and the Definitive Edition, obviously, as the name states, comes with all of the DLC as well. So you're getting everything. You're getting the full package that was out on the 360 or PS3.
Yeah, did you play the first Dishonored?
I did. I didn't play any of the DLC, but I played Dishonored. I tried to start it as a kind of non-lethal and do it non-lethal, but that kind of I stopped very quickly and just started killing people quite quickly. But it was a great game, and it was one of those games where I played. Something else came out. And then I started playing that. It could have been a Batman game or something like that. And then I went back to it, and I was kind of lost where I was. So I just started playing it all over again, just to really kind of get back and get immersed into that world. And I really loved it. I thought it was great. So I'm looking forward to both of those titles.
Cool. Yeah, and it says a lot about a game when it can be interrupted and have that draw to get you back into it. And Dishonored, yeah, it was a quality game. I enjoyed it. Finished it. I think I was the same as you, really. Started off stealthy, but some of it was just too much bother. And I wanted to explore some of the amazing weapons that you could use as well. And I loved that blink, that teleport blink power that you got.
Yeah.
So yeah, I presume. I mean, that was a big feature. So I presume that's back in Dishonored 2 in spades.
No, absolutely. It looked. They even showed that in the trailer as well. And there's some different dynamics that they weren't really talking too much about, but they were showing it. So that was Dishonored, and then after that they showed some Skyrim Online. So Elder Scrolls Online, I should say, not Skyrim. And they showed that, which looks fantastic. I'm not 100% sure about that yet. I may dip in. They did say that you can play online or you can play as solo. So I was thinking, reason why I said Skyrim, because I was thinking, could this be kind of back to Skyrim? But I know Witcher's kind of scratching that itch at the moment. And they also showed a free-to-play tablet card game, which is Elder Scrolls Legend as well. So there was 2 mobile games at the Bethesda conference. One of them being this kind of Elder Scrolls Legend game, and the other one being Fallout Shelter iOS, or Fallout Shelter, which was available straight after the conference on iPad. So even though when the conference finished, it was probably about 4:30, I stupidly went to the App Store on my iPad and started downloading Fallout Shelter. Wow. And I was but I did just shut it down and go to sleep. Try to go to sleep for at least an hour.
I was just going to say, if you started to play it, that would have been it.
Absolutely, they would have been all over, and I was like, no, I've got to go. But the biggie of the Bethesda conference was Fallout 4. Everybody was sitting there waiting for it.
Yeah.
And Todd Howard came out and introduced Fallout 4, and it looks incredible. It looks even, the trailer gave some stuff away or showed you the mechanics, but when you actually see that game and some of the things that they were talking about, and it did pop up in other conferences as well, but some of the stuff they were talking, it looks fantastic. I can't wait to get my hands on that game.
Yeah, because it's been a while, I settled down after Fallout, and I know that it's got such a big fan base of people crying out for it. And I've not been one of those, though. I thoroughly enjoyed Fallout 3. I completed it. I think it was it Washington. It was saying. Was it Washington?
Well, this one is set in Boston.
In Boston.
Yes.
Okay. Where's the Division set? Is that not Boston as well?
No, the Division's set in New York.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I know for a fact because they showed the Flatiron building, which is my favourite building.
Oh, yeah, of course they did, and I thought of that when I saw it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
have a Lego of it on my desk right now. I'm looking at it. So, yeah, they have that's set in New York, but this is set in Boston. But the fantastic thing about this was after that trailer, there was a lot of speculation about kind of what you were going to do, whether you were going to go back in time, whether there's going to be flashbacks, and they just went through all of that, and some of the stuff that they told us was the what you were seeing at the start when everything looks great, in this kind of 1950s alternate reality Earth. That's when you choose your character. So that's when you kind of do your character creation. So you do you and also your wife as well. So you can get to do the creation for both of those. And then they show it kind of. You get an alarm, so there's an alarm going off, and then it just obviously there's like get to your shelter, so you have to get to that Vault 111, and then they did say, and this was a bit strange, that you go into Vault 111 and you come out roughly 200 years later.
Wow, well, this is. I was just going to say that because I remember, I think on the last podcast we were talking about it, and I said, yeah, and I was sort of saying that I imagined that you'd do some character creation and you could be the baby that they were with in the crib. I thought that might be your character, and then I was like, yeah, and the dog, there was the dog there, and I said that'll be your best mate. But then I was like, hold on a minute though, and I was just thinking, in 30 years later in the vault, the dog would be dead. But it sounds like you kind of get cryogenically frozen or something.
It must be something happens in Vault 111 that you stay there for 200 years. So and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, but this might be a first, but the character is fully voiced in Fallout. So is that a first for that series?
Yes, I think so. I'm pretty sure it was a silent protagonist last time. And the other times it was isometric top down. So yeah. Oh wow. So what kind of things did they say? Was it just commenting as you walked along, like "Hey there, boy," that sort of thing, like patting the dog, stuff like that?
Yeah, it was, and they were saying that within the game engine, there's all of because you get to choose a name for your character. They have loaded the character up or loaded the engine up with loads of names. So when you meet Codsworth, who is your family robot. I'm hoping I get a family robot soon. But when you get a family robot, you meet the family robot 200 years later, he recognizes you because you haven't aged, and he kind of calls you by your name. So there might be a lot of that, kind of just calling out your name as they're talking. So it just looks amazing. It looks incredible. But two of the really interesting things that they showed with this. The first one was Pip-Boy. Now, Pip-Boy, which is the companion that you have to go into a menu to do all of your settings and set your stats and things like that. Pip-Boy now is, it's an app for Android and iPhone devices. So you can have it as an app. So you no longer have to go into your settings screen. You can just go straight into, or you can have it on your iPhone, iPad. You can have it next to you, always looking at your stats, changing your stats, your loadouts and things like that. But what they did announce was a collector's edition of Fallout 4, and this comes with an actual Pip-Boy. It's a real life Pip-Boy frame that you can actually put your smartphone in, so you can wear a Pip-Boy whilst you're playing Fallout 4. And I just found this incredible. I thought it was amazing. I'm not, and I keep telling myself I'm not going to buy it, but I just think it would just be hilarious.
I do love the Pip-Boy idea with the companion app for smartphones. It's the best yes. companion app, best use of a companion app I've seen yet, because usually it just feels like filler. I mean, I don't know if you remember on Assassin's Creed Black Flag, it had sort of a mini game, and I think they sort of made it necessary to get it. I hate that. I really hate that. But it really didn't have much bearing on the game. I mean, you just sent your ships off and you got extra loot and stuff, but it kind of... I just found that they're just making these companion apps for the sake of making it. We've got to utilise this because there's a Wii U pad. We've got to utilise this because another company did this, or because what was the zombie game on Wii U called? Zombie U.
Zombie U.
Yeah. It's like, they did this, so we've got to do this. It was as if everybody was jumping on the bandwagon, and I didn't see it used well really once that I can think of. But this is brilliant because on Fallout 3. I was never out of my Pip-Boy. You're always in there checking your settings, going through everything, looking at this and that. And this way, you've got your iPad on your knee or your phone or whatever, and you've just got it there. It's fantastic. So I think it's going to work really well. Apart from the eyes off screen, but it's not exactly, it's not quite tournament, is it? So you it's not burnout. You can look off the screen in a quiet area and check your Pip-Boy. And as for the real wrist Pip-Boy, I think that's great. I'm really tempted. It's a game exclusive, I believe, for £99. Oh
right, okay. So Game have got the exclusivity deal on that then
in the UK. Yeah, I don't know what's happening in the US. Usually it's Best Buy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's either Best Buy or GameStop, isn't it? That has that's really interesting. So yeah, though it looks incredible. The fun they must have had when someone pitched that idea in an ideas meeting, and then someone said, let's do it. Because it looked incredible, and the fact that you just house your phone, clip it in, and then you can control it as your character controls the Pip-Boy on screen. Yeah. It's amazing.
Genius moment when someone said that. That's just pure genius. What I wonder is about. See, I'm a bit of an old fuddy-duddy. I've still got an iPhone 4 because I haven't found that there's been a new iPhone with enough of an improvement for me to upgrade. So I'm sort of still using my iPhone 4 because I'm stubborn like that. I'll only upgrade when I don't know what I want, but it's not arrived yet. So I'm thinking, well, there's quite a few different form factors of smartphone. So are they all going to fit?
Yes. Or does it have a template that you just put your phone in and then it just slots in? So it'll be an interesting one to see exactly what it does.
Are you going to get it?
I'm not sure. I keep telling myself no because I just think I'll look. But I'll wait and see when it comes live on Game, and especially now because I've been looking on Amazon for kind of games to buy and games to purchase, and they hadn't got that, but they didn't have the special edition. So, but now I know it's in Game, maybe I'll look over there.
I don't know if I mentioned it, but did you see the Volt Tech trainers that you could get?
No.
You can't get them anymore, and I never even heard of this, but a guy on one of the forums, I think it was Metro's Game Central forum, posted a picture. He said, now Fallout 4's been revealed, I finally popped these on and wore them outside with pride. I never had the courage before. And he showed this picture of blue trainers with like yellow detail on and 101 written on the side. They look so cool. They're like just like a Pip Boys. They were so cool, man. I looked all over the internet to get them, but you can't really get them anymore. So yeah, and it makes me think, oh wow, I wish I had some of them. So it made me think maybe I should get this new toy. But I never usually go in for this sort of thing. But there's a few things that, and we'll get to them, that have also tempted me as well. But we'll get to that later on.
But the last thing, just before we wrap up on the Fallout, was one of the new features in Fallout 4 is the ability to rebuild settlements around the map. So what this is doing is you can salvage old buildings and old parts that are scattered around the map and reuse them to build up your own buildings, and then you can use them as kind of houses or shops or bars. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of missions where you've got to try and rebuild an NPC settlement or something like that. So that was another thing that was added to Fallout 4.
Yeah, it's going to be a proper open world game, isn't it? Where you can just choose your path. It seems like it's going to be more open ended than even the last one, which is really good. And one thing I do think, and it does look fantastic and everything, but there's something about the skin textures. I don't think they've quite got that right yet.
No, but they've still got a while, because what they did was at the end of it, they put up Vought 111 up on the screen, and I thought it was going to be coming out the 1st of November, because obviously that's what 111 is, but what they did, they said it was coming out on the 10th of November, 2015, so they just kind of merged those numbers into 10, 11, 15, so we're getting Fallout 4 this year.
Wow. Well, I can't wait. I mean, it's definitely going to be one that I'm going to get. In fact, I should start making this list up, because my games wanted list has just grown massively since E3. Fallout 4 was on it already, but that's definitely on the list.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely, and that's definitely going to be a game that's going to take me through Christmas.
Yeah, so many games are going to take us through Christmas. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So that was it for Bethesda? I mean, I believe it was a strong conference. It was the first one, so I can understand a little bit of nerves from the presentations, but they delivered a good package, didn't they?
No, absolutely. They did really well. I hope they do one next year as well. I hope they keep going. I thought it was really good and really enjoyed it. And it was well worth kind of getting up ridiculously early for.
Excellent. Actually, it shook you out of that sleepy coma.
Absolutely. And so the next one, which was in a decent time in the UK, it was at 5:30 on the Monday, and that was Microsoft. So Microsoft, they started quite well with their usual montage.
Yeah, I loved that opening montage. So this, for me, you'd seen Bethesda already. For me, my first sort of slice of E3 was this Microsoft conference, and I was there, ready, sat there, excited. And all my cynicism, I sort of locked it away. And I was ready and sort of, I just let it go. I let all my inhibitions go, and I was ready to be impressed, and I was hoping to be impressed and not disappointed. And just that opening montage, the music and the video reel, it just got me so excited. And I think that Microsoft are so good at capturing that sort of, they just capture that feeling and that undercurrent of gaming enthusiasm. But after that, I was just so excited for whatever it is that was going to come. But I was just like, please, yes, this is it. This is E3. This is what I love. Yeah, it was fantastic. And so 343 Industries were first up with Bonnie Ross introducing Halo 5 Guardians.
And it looks amazing, doesn't it?
Looks very nice.
That gameplay footage just looked incredible. I thought it was just amazing, and it was good to see Nathan Fillion back. So he's back from he's reprising his character from ODST.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
So that was me happy.
Yeah.
But it looked fantastic. I love it. And it's going to be 4-player co-op for the campaign. But instead of having 4 Master Chiefs, you actually, each one has their own unique ability. So similar to ODST, similar to Reach, they've learnt those lessons from there. And it looks like the co-op could be really interesting.
Yeah, and it looks like it's got a bit of a squad-based shooter tactics side to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I saw
that on the a demo they sort of had the main character. I don't think it was Master Chief. I think there's another guy, Spartan Locke, and he was sort of saying, "You go over there, flank. You do this. You do this." And I thought that was pretty cool. Probably access them on the D-pad and tell your guys sort of where to go. A little bit like you used to tell the X-Wings where to go on Rogue Leader. So yeah, I thought that was nice, a nice introduction to it. And if that's been in ODST, then I haven't played it, so it's a new thing for me.
No, I mean the talking between the communication between the different Spartans, that was never so much. It was more you just had that for cutscenes. So that kind of in-game, it's quite funny, and it's probably a bad comparison, but it did remind me a little bit of Call of Duty, because they're always shouting at you at Call of Duty, going do this, do that, do this. So, but it just looked fantastic. I can't wait to play Halo 5. That is just the Nicola and I, we are marking our calendar for that release date. That's a kind of a weekend where we'll shut ourselves away and play the campaign of that one.
Why not?
It just felt fantastic. It's great to see the Prometheans back. I quite enjoyed them as an enemy. So it's going to be a hell of a ride, I think, with Halo 5 Guardians.
Yeah, it looked fantastic. I love the fact that the little Covenant guy, he was sort of like, it's just the same as always. He's like, they're everywhere. Or he said, I can't take this anymore, or something. And it's like a bit of I'm sick of getting shot in every iteration of Halo. I really like that. And then they picked up this weapon that I'd never seen, the plasma caster. I thought that looked really cool, the way that just blasted everybody away. I thought it looked great. And just on the subject of squad and squad team based sort of dynamics, and having this team with you, that will make you care about the guys more. I'm thinking that in the future maybe they could introduce a bit of an XCOM style thing where you could name your squad. Just give them names that you pick, and it'd just make you feel even more care about them even more, wouldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. There we go. Because I loved that part of XCOM. You named them, and I remember when Ringo died. He was one of my guys in XCOM. It was sad. It was like you really did kind of feel for it, because they don't come back, do they? They don't come back in XCOM.
No, once they're gone, they're gone. Yeah. So it'd be a nice little thing to do, and I think because Rainbow Six was shown as well, and that's something maybe you could do in that. I know it cocks up the speech, but because you can't call them by their name if you do that. But it's a nice little feature that maybe they could put in the future. It looked great. It looked great. It's gone on my list as well. And I was sort of getting a bit tired of Halo 4 when I first bought it. I gave up because I put it on the hardest level. And I just thought, I can't be bothered. So I gave up and I traded it in for something else, which I can't remember now. But then I was missing it because, as I've said before, I like to find out. I'm interested in the Master Chief Cortana story and the story of Halo. So I got it back and I just stuck it on easy, just so I could walk through it. And because what I wanted was the story, and I thought, forget your pride. Forget having to complete everything on the hardest level. For goodness sake, you're not like 20 thinking you're best at games anymore. Even though I am best at games. Oh, no, I'm not. Yeah, I am. And I thought just get it and play through and enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And I did, and I did thoroughly enjoy it. So I played it in a different way than I've ever played a FPS before. I played it before. I've always played it for the challenge and the spectacle and the story. And this time I forgot about the challenge because I haven't got the time. And I just enjoyed the spectacle and the story, and it was great. The better looking the game, and the more invested the team is in the story, the better those aspects are going to be. And Halo 5 Guardians is shaping up to have those, is just in spades. So I'm really looking forward to that. Another one for my must-buy list.
Yeah, excellent. It's quite interesting that you say that about kind of ramping Halo up to its hardest level. When I was listening to an interview with 343 before they let go of the Halo franchise. No, sorry, Bungie before they let go of the Halo franchise. And they were saying that Halo should be played on heroic, because that is how Halo should feel. So heroic, not legendary, but heroic, which is the one down from the hardest level. And whether you're playing co-op or on your own, it should be played at heroic. And then if you want that achievement or that extra kind of back pat, that's when you go to the legendary. So that's what I always play it on. So whenever there's a new game of Halo, it always goes to heroic straight away. And that was just, I thought it was an interesting thing that they said.
Oh, good. I've never heard that. So that's really interesting. I will do that then with, and I'll feel better about it. I think, you don't have to knock it up to 11 all the time.
Exactly. This is how the game is meant to be played.
Yeah, and you can't argue with that. And what was I going to say then about it? It doesn't matter. It'll come back to me.
So up next was Microsoft's first new reveal. So obviously Halo 5 Guardians is an exclusive, but up next was the first new reveal, and that was ReCore. So ReCore is from the creator of Metroid and Mega Man. And it was a woman and a robot dog, I think it was, wasn't it, with a sphere in the middle of the dog. It looked fantastic.
Yeah, I loved that. So it started, and I just thought, this looks really nice. And at this point, I'd already decided that this was going to be a good E3 with the montage and Halo Guardians, which I'm not even a big fan of anymore. I was just like, wow, I'm so hyped. And then this came on, and I was like, look at this, it looks brilliant, it looks amazing. And then, the little dog came in, didn't he? You could just see that orb, couldn't you, that core inside him. And then they went into this cave, and just the graphics. And we should just sort of say an overarching statement now, really, that like the graphics for everything are amazing, because it's like my jaw was on the floor, I think, for the whole of this conference, for the whole of Sony's conference, and everything I've seen, really. I was just like, wow, they're knocking it out of the park. So all the textures and the foliage, all the moving plants and what have you was amazing.
We're really at next gen now, aren't we? We're really we are that next gen is now the new gen, and we're there. Because I remember, you quite rightly put during one of the conferences when you and I were chatting, kind of going, look at this, and it was almost like every game that come out, we were saying, looks amazing. And you just said, looks amazing is now the new norm. And I just thought, you're spot on there. That is exactly it. We are... All of these games just look incredible.
Yeah, let's just hope that we don't get apathetic at the standard and expect even more, and that we can just be happy with. I keep coining the phrase with this golden age of games that we've got at the moment. And you're absolutely right. I think the next gen has arrived. This E3 has stamped the next gen firmly in its place, and
absolutely
people that aren't on board, if they've watched those conferences, I think I think there's gonna be more console selling, and I think Microsoft's Xbox is gonna sell a lot more thanks to this conference. I thought they did a really good job. But so what about when they had this fight then in the cave with the little dog and the lady, and then all of a sudden there was too many monsters and they got overwhelmed, and the little pooch kind of gave her a look, and he's like, "Don't worry," and he ran in and fought them all, and then exploded and blew them all up, and it was like, "Oh no! The dog's dead."
Yeah.
Usually that doesn't happen until the end of the game, and they're showing it in the demo reel.
But of course, all that was left was the core of the dog, which he then took. So that's hence the name Recore.
Yeah, I know,
because that just blew your mind, didn't it? Just
wow, it's the core. What did she do with the core, though? I mean,
well, she's going to it. That's just not a word.
It is, because she's going to So there's that other robot.
She's going to repurpose the core.
She recores the robot, doesn't she? She can recore it into anything. It's
absolutely,
a core,
absolutely.
And she can recore it. It's just handy that there was an old robot just leaning against the side of the cave, and she popped it in, and he's like, "Oh, welcome back, buddy." It's like, "Oh, wow," because I was sad when the dog died. It doesn't take me long to get emotionally invested.
Yeah, you're already attached to these characters already. You're like, don't die. But, I mean, it was interesting with the Recore because it was... Obviously, it's a brand new exclusive game, but it was probably one of the only games that Microsoft was showing. There's a few others, but it was a very small amount that was 2016, because a lot of the stuff that Microsoft was showing is like out this year, out at fall, out at Christmas, and it was one of those ones that was in next year. I mean, it just has a spring release window, so that's not far into next year. When we'll talk about Sony in a bit, a lot of Sonys were very much kind of 2016 at some point, where Microsoft did have a bevy of games that was this year.
Yeah, they did. It's Microsoft where they're saying, we've got good games, we've got new games, and we're going to deliver them to you imminently. And you can promise the world to anybody with a 20-year release date. I could say now, I'm going to make. I can't even think of a game because there's been that many reveals that I would use in that placeholder. So I'm going to make Beyond Good and Evil 5. It's going to be the best game out. So you wait for it, Anthony. I'm going to bring that out in 2032. And give you some concept drawings. But like Microsoft are like, it was all imminent. Now I haven't gone over it with a fine tooth comb, but certainly because Halo, it was like, right, that's coming out on the 27th of October. Recore, spring 2016. That's not too far away. Many more of their games, it was all like you say, it was like holiday, autumn, Christmas time, November, like Tomb Raider, for instance, that was coming out in November, and we'll get to that. But so I felt it was very imminent, everything, and I thought it was so fast paced. There was no filler. It was all content. It was all good stuff, and it all felt like it was imminent and relevant to the current time. And I just thought that I sat there and I had this. I think I had a great big soppy smile on my face from basically that opening montage, and they never let the pacing drop to let the smile get off my face. I was aching, and I said to Claire, I was like, I said to her, Claire, I think the industry's learned its lesson, from the past E3s. I said, this is an E3. This is what I've always wanted out of an E3. I think they've turned a corner.
No, absolutely. I mean, last year they were games, and there was a lot of games, but they were still kind of you're bridging the gap between two generations of consoles still. But this year, there wasn't any word of the 360. It was all Xbox One, and you could see that from the quality of games. But there was one mention of 360, and that was with potentially, I think. I mean, I don't like to say kind of who won the E3 or what wins E3, but I think one of the biggest announcements of E3 so far was the next one from Microsoft, and that was the fact that they're adding backwards compatibility to the Xbox One. I just think it was almost a Sony move, because it was back to that conference that you were talking about last week with Jack Trenton, because they were just saying you don't have to rebuy those games that you've already bought. We're giving you backwards compatibility, which was a stab at the PS Plus or the PS Now service over there on Sony consoles. So it was firmly kind of a dig at Sony, and they've added backwards compatibility, and I think there's 100 titles at the moment. It's available just for preview members, with it rolling out in the fall update. So I think in the fall we're going to get a huge update, which includes backward compatibility and a new look and feel for the Xbox One. I know you've tried it, and I've also tried it as well. So we're part of the preview program, and I tried it today with of course Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise, as you might have seen me playing earlier. But I just popped it in. I saved my my Pinata saves is in the cloud anyway, so that was done. Popped in the game, it installed it, and then off it went, and it just started playing the game. And then one tap on the middle button, and I was back to the Xbox One dashboard. If you hold down the hamburger button and the back button, which is the three lines, it took you to the Xbox 360 kind of pop out, so you could get you can talk to your friends, you can chat and things like that. But it was working really well. And also I found that when I went to the games that I've already purchased, there was all of the games that I'd purchased on Xbox Live Arcade over on the Xbox 360. They were just sitting there ready for me to download them.
Yeah, what a fantastic announcement. I mean, I was moaning a few weeks ago about my Star Trek Next Generation pinball game, and PS4 trying to charge me again for the game, and there's no damn difference. But yeah, you predicted it as well, mate. You predicted this.
I was just going to say that, and also this was predicted by somebody. I tell you, the feedback at Xbox.com, it's such a great website, and you just see so many people that are just putting ideas. Some of them are crazy, some of them are wacky. Someone keeps putting Viva Pinata on there. That could potentially be me. But they're looking at it. You can see from the updates that have been coming out from Microsoft, the monthly updates, that they're definitely looking at their website. It was put together by I think it was by Larry Major Nelson Herb, and it was put together by his team. So, and it's being pushed in front of Phil Spencer on a monthly basis, saying do this, do that, and we've got backwards compatibility. They didn't know when Phil Spencer announced it with a big grin on his face. They said that they didn't know they could do it, but the guys up in Redmond have pulled it out and they've done it. And it just works fantastic. So there's 100 games at the moment. They're adding more and more, and they're saying that by the time it's available to everyone, there should be a big list of games. And I noticed on feedback.xbox today that there's a whole list of games that you can vote for. So they have to do a tiny little bit of tweaking, and they have to also get the permission from the distributor of that game. But once they've done that, it's just off you go. It's you put in your disc and away you go. So it's just really good. If there ever is a lull in this generation, and if I had to kind of be a little bit kind of disappointed with this amazing announcement, it was where was this when I had nothing to play? I've got some games that I didn't play because I packed my 360 away. But now it's there. You can, if there's ever a lull, you can just pick off those achievements or just play, that big pile of shame that's just sitting there unplayed. So I'm just well happy with this announcement.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really good. As I say, my jaw just hit the floor. I never in my wildest dreams expected this announcement. When you predicted it, I just thought, well, that's a nice idea, but I just thought, yeah, that'll never happen. But now you've told me where you get your information from. I didn't know it was allowed, looking over all this inside information. But
so I've let my source out of the bag. It's really good. If you signed into Xbox Live, you go there. You can just put any crazy idea you want. I've put a couple of times, about 4K compatibility. Remake this game, do this, and then people just get to vote on it. And like I said, the top two was always Gears HD and backwards compatibility.
Wow, yeah. And I had to go on it. I think yesterday was the first time that I tried it. I was looking for the games for a bit. If you want to find the games on it, they're in the if it's not a physical disc, if you want to find the games that you've bought previously, what you do is you just go into My Games and Apps and you scroll across to the Ready to Install category. And in there, if it's available and you've bought it, there'll be games there just waiting for you. So I installed Geometry Wars, which I love. I always loved it, and I still love it because I'm sort of a bit old school. And there's still an achievement that I haven't got, which is to get 1 million points without dying. So I was having a go at that. And the great thing about that is you can have a quick go. It's not like The Witcher, where you can't really have 5 minutes on The Witcher. And so you can just pop it on and have a go. I mean, I love all those twin-stick shooters anyway, but it works just so well. It works perfectly. And I was watching an interview that Major Nelson did with one of the engineers that got this working, and from the technical chat they were having, it sounds like what they've done is they've sort of used the kind of engineering from like virtual machines, and they've cloned an Xbox 360, made a software clone, and then basically that's the emulator. So you've just got a clone of a 360 accessible from your Xbox One now, and that just runs the game. So it is a 360 in software in your Xbox One, and yeah, it runs really well. I thought there'd be, because it's the preview, the beta that we're looking at. I thought there might be a few bumps in the road or a few hiccups, but it worked perfectly, and it's nice to see the old 360 logo come up when the game comes on and everything. It's really good. You won't be able to play anything that's USB or uses the old Kinect because it's a purely software emulation. So we can't get Guitar Hero and Rock Band out and rock out on those. But all in all, it's a great step. I was going to say step forwards, but step backwards if you like, for everybody who wants to like you've put your Xbox 360 away. I've got rid of mine when I got my Xbox One, but we have, and like many people have, I mean, I've had to think how much I've spent on digital downloads on my 360, and I did sort of feel a bit sad about the prospect of that drive getting wiped and losing the games. I mean, I downloaded a lot of them to my dad's console, even though he doesn't play them, just so I thought there was some value there. But now, yeah, we can play that old catalogue if we're feeling a bit bored, and if there is ever a little, if there's a little bump in the road of these quality games. But at the moment, I mean, yeah, there's not much time, is there?
No, absolutely. But, it's fantastic. It's there, and it just shows that Microsoft really are listening to their fans. It just shows, and it's quite interesting because there is, 5 hours between Microsoft and Sony. I thought there was going to be a reverse of the couple of years ago, and I thought Sony were going to say something similar. But they've actually come out to say, it's good that that Microsoft are doing that. We're doing this. So whether at some point you might see PS Now in there, I mean, they paid a lot of money for that Gaikai technology. So they need to get their money back from it somehow. But it was interesting to see that Sony didn't come back with and PS Now is now free with PS Plus, which was one of the things I was predicting. But that never happened. So that was fantastic. So next up was something that I just thought was awesome, and it has got more awesome as the days have gone on, and that is the Pro Controller, or the Elite Controller. Fantastic piece of design. This controller looks sexy. It looks very cool. It's got adjustable and changeable thumbsticks. You can adjust the triggers. It's got adjustable buttons underneath that you can just assign. It's quite interesting because my nephew Will, he got a Pro Controller for Christmas, and he was showing me that. I didn't even know before Christmas. I didn't even know these things existed. And then I kind of went to his house on Christmas Day, and he was showing me the controller, and And it was fantastic, and I was playing with it, and he was showing me the website and how you can customize your buttons, and it just opened up a whole new world. I didn't know this kind of Pro controller existed. And now the Microsoft have almost gone, yeah, all of you guys are doing that with our controller, well, we're going to create our own one. And it looks incredibly sexy. And the reason why I'm saying it's got even more awesome is because over the last couple of days, all of the thumbsticks and things are customizable, but they're actually doing them, so they're bringing them out now. They're bringing out a Gears of War customizable pack for your controller. They're bringing out a Forza pack for your controller. So it just gives that kind of, I'm playing Gears tonight, I'm just going to quickly screw in these thumbsticks, and it just kind of gives it almost like a personalized controller for that game that you're playing.
Yeah, and you've been into your car games, those sort of paddle shifts on the back of the pad for gear changes, man. That's excellent. I hope they've got a satisfying clunk when you press them, and I bet they have.
Yes.
I mean,
and it looks nice. They've been kind of on some of the shows I've been watching where they've been doing kind of after shows and interviews. They've been kind of, a couple of guys have been kind of on the same shows. Major Nelson's got a show, AC Bongo's got a show on Xbox Live, and whenever they show it, they unzip this little pack and then they bring out this controller, and I guess the downside of it, it's expensive, for that kind of, it's almost a high-end quality thing, and it comes with a price tag for a controller.
I was surprised at the price. But I was underwhelmed by that controller they revealed a week ago or so. I was with the new headphone jack and some slight tweaks. I was sort of like, what's this all about? I was very underwhelmed with that. With this, it looks so beautiful, but yeah, £130.
Yes. It's quite funny because when Phil Spencer announced it in the conference, he said, I'm pleased to announce this Elite controller. I'm thinking, why are you spending time on something that you've already announced? And it was something completely different. But you're right, £130 it's available now already on Amazon. I've already pre-ordered one for me. So I hope the wife isn't listening to this podcast. So I've already pre-ordered one because I just think, I'm not a pro gamer, but it just looks so comfortable, it looks amazing, and it's a fantastic piece of kit.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be about £70 or something, and at that price I might have jumped in, but it just looks so good, But it's a third of the price of the console.
It really is. And I hope it's worth it, but it just looks fantastic. So when it's out, I will no doubt do a little kind of mini review on either one of the podcasts, or stick some pictures up on gamersofthelostspark.com.
Yeah, give us the lowdown. I mean, they could look at it this way, what on the console, what's the most important piece of equipment or hardware that you use with the console? It's the controller. So, and how long do you have the console for? Well, lifespan could be, 6 to 10 years, say. So you're using this piece of equipment for a heck of a long time. The longer it's being used, the more, value you're getting out of it. So when you break it down, that £130 could give you 5 years of play and give you that much more enjoyment and that much more precision. When you think about it that way, it's not too hard to justify the money.
No, absolutely. It comes with a companion app for the Xbox One, which allows you to map all of those buttons on the underneath. So you can take them off if you want. They totally pop out and go into that little carrying case, or you can keep them and then you can map them to certain buttons or button combinations for when you're playing. So very cool. Can't wait for that to come out. Can't wait to get my little mitts on it.
A good use of Kinect there would be for that mapping app. If instead of clicking around in a million different buttons and options, if you could just say map R1 this, and you could say it and it mapped it, that would be really cool.
Absolutely. So next up after the controller was Fallout 4 again. So Fallout 4, so Todd Howard took to the stage at Microsoft, and he was there because he had an announcement that was specific to PCs and Xbox One.
Yeah, well, you're getting a bit bored of Fallout by now. I mean, you've been up all night watching Bethesda, you've seen Fallout, you've seen Howard before, you're feeling like you're getting to know him quite well. Were you thinking, oh no, not Fallout 4 again?
We was on first name terms at this point. He was the Toddster, and he was just calling me Chessman. We're buddies. But what they were saying was the cool thing that they're doing is they're bringing mods, PC mods for Fallout 4 will be available on Xbox One. I've heard that it kind of happened after the conference and after Sony's conference. This is going to be available on Sony's on the PlayStation 4, but later. So it's coming first on Xbox One. So that was an interesting turn of events.
I thought it was a great announcement, and like you say, afterwards it became revealed that it was kind of a timed exclusive and it'll be PS4 at a later date, and Bethesda wants that on all consoles. But when it was announced, and probably because of the way it was announced, and why wouldn't they? It was just for Microsoft, and because Microsoft's sort of PC, I was just like, oh wow. And like I was saying, I think on the last podcast about the mods on Skyrim making it probably one of the best looking games on any platform, and just one of the best looking games out there because of the mods. Allowing these mods is such a great boon. This is something that PC gamers have always had the ace up their sleeve with, and to have this. I don't know how it's going to work, but that's not our problem. They've said it's going to. So to be able to download these mods, hopefully for free, or even if you have to pay a few quid, but the graphic, I told you I had a look at these graphical mods for Skyrim. It's bloody jaw dropping, and so Fallout will improve with time, like a fine wine. Except it won't be aging. Well, it will be aging in one way, but it'll be blossoming and evolving in another. So your games you're gonna get that sort of PC ticket on your Xbox One. And your PS4 later.
Yes, absolutely. I thought it was a fantastic addition, and I just think they're obviously their Fallout 4 just is an absolute labour of love for that team, because they're putting everything into it. So next up was Peter Moore. So Peter came out. He comes strutting out. You always think he's going to just kind of strip off, and there's going to be a tattoo or something, but he was very well dressed. I thought
he had a sharp suit.
Absolutely, in a conference where everybody's wearing t-shirts and jeans and things like that, and it's worthwhile saying that Phil Spencer at this point, he had his top zipped up, and everyone was trying to guess what his t-shirt was on Twitter, which was quite interesting. But Peter Moore comes out in his sharp suit, and he announced. Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 got announced, and we got to see a trailer for that, and that's going to be out early 2016. And then he also announced that EA Access Vaults was free. Is it just for this week? It is, isn't it? It's free for just this week.
The week of E3, he said it would be free. He couldn't have a look at the time because Xbox Live, in fact, I think the entire internet was blowing up at this time. It got worse, but at the time it was a bit clunky. Everybody was on there trying to have a look. And everything there is free at the moment. By the time this is published, you'll probably have you'll probably have Thursday night, Friday, Saturday to get into the vault and have a look. And it's good value. I was looking at this, £3.99 a month or £19.99 for the year for the EA Vault. And if you're into your sports, I think it's a no-brainer because they've got that whole sports line up there. Maybe not the very latest ones, but Titanfall, they announced that was going in. At that time, it went in there and then, didn't it, to the vault? He said Titanfall's in there now. Dragon Age Inquisition is going in there soon. And there's UFC, FIFA 14, I think FIFA 15, NBA 14. There's loads of different games in there.
Yeah.
Good
Absolutely.
value.
I was quite tempted to have a go of Madden because I like playing Madden games. I'm just terrible at them. I really enjoy it. I see them. You always see that kind of announcement trailer for Madden. You just think, I'm going to get this year, but I'm terrible at it. But I really enjoy playing it. So, I'm going to have a go over the weekend.
Yeah, no harm in having a dabble. And I do think that I'm not really into my sport games, but when they start adding more games into there, I think I was pricing it up because I was tempted to get UFC, and I do like my basketball games. And for the price of one, that's like 2 years subscription with it, and you get everything else. So I think I'm gonna succumb and subscribe to EA Access Vault, but I'm just going to wait for a few more games. For instance, if I'd not played Dragon Age, I would be on there straight away because you got a 100-hour game there straight away. Oh, I was going to ask you, what's your position on the suit jacket and jeans combo?
I'm happy with it. I occasionally
you don't do it, do you?
You occasionally see me in London, wearing a suit. Not maybe a suit jacket.
This is England, sir. This is England. You can't do it.
Always has patches. All my jackets always have patches. I'm a firm believer of the patch. Maybe a Batman or a Dark Bunny tease or something like that. Underneath. So absolutely.
Oh wow! I reckon the t-shirt. If you've got the geeky t-shirt, you can sort of style it out a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. I have to say, it's breaking off completely, but I got a new Dark Bunnies t-shirt today, which I'm quite excited about. It's a glow-in-the-dark Ghostbusters t-shirt, and that's all I'm going to say, because but it is fantastic. So I am, next up, Plants vs. Zombies, Garden Warfare 2, same stuff, better graphics, it looks fantastic. I'm not sure if I'm going to dabble this time, I'm not sure, but let's kind of wait and see. But up next was my favourite part of the conference, which was Rare. So Rare kind of feels top came off, and there he was with a very cool Rare t-shirt. And it was time for Rare. So we had, first up was Rare Replay. So Rare Replay is celebrating 30 years of Rare. So there's 30 years worth of 30 games, and they were saying for $30. So it's 30 years of Rare, 30 games, $30. It includes Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts is in there, Banjo-Tooie's in there, Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise, Jetpack, the lot. You know, this is a huge amount of games, and there's 10,000 gamer score is just sitting there to be replayed, and I can't wait. I've actually been... It looks fantastic. I saw some things after the conference where they went into it a little deeper. It also comes with almost what you could call the DVD extras, because it has a lot of behind the scenes and interviews with the developers, just talking about the games and how they made them, etc. This is, if you're a fan of gaming, a fan of Rare, this is a fantastic bundle. And I've been checking out this store on Microsoft. It's there teasing me, but it's unavailable to purchase at the moment. I can't wait to just download that digitally and have those titles just available and just waiting.
Yeah, I saw your anticipation on Twitter there, and your frustration that it was just not available yet. But yeah, that is such value for money, and as you say, you know, it's a historical chronicle of Rare games, and you know, they made their name many years ago with some fantastic quality games, GoldenEye being one of them. And is it how many games is in there? Is it 30?
There's 30 games there. So there's going to be 30 games there. The only game that was quite interestingly absent was GoldenEye.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that because it showed all those pictures of all the games on the screen, you know, it sort of beggared the senses. But yeah, GoldenEye wasn't one, and I wonder why. I wonder if this means that they're going to, you know, maybe reinvent GoldenEye, gives a nice definitive edition.
Maybe, or maybe they just couldn't get the license from whoever owns it now, because I know there was someone who did re-release a kind of GoldenEye-esque game, didn't they, a couple of years ago on Xbox 360. Yeah. But they have Perfect Dark, which was obviously the spiritual successor to GoldenEye. That's there, but I just can't wait to play them. And I would love to think that I could be disciplined enough to start at the start of Rare, and all those games I used to play on my Spectrum, and just kind of work through those games and then go all the way to Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise. But I think we all know what game I'm going to be playing first for new achievements. And it's just, I was so happy with it. And this again was another one, kind of one of the ones that I kind of predicted.
Yeah, you called it. You said a rare compilation or a best of Rare.
Absolutely. So I just, that was more of a wish than a hunch, and it came true. And then after that, if that wasn't enough, if I wasn't jumping up and down with a big grin on my face, we had Sea of Thieves. Now, Sea of Thieves is a brand new title, brand new IP from Rare. Straight away when they showed it, they showed a trailer which was gameplay. Straight away you could tell this was a Rare game. It looked like a Rare game. You know, where we were saying before that Yooka-Laylee looked like a Rare game, so did this. You know, it looked fantastic. It looked stunning. It's a pirate game. It's a hunt 'em up, ship 'em up. It just looks fantastic, and I can't wait to know more about this. I kind of think that they were showing us what they showed us as a bit of a tease, and I think the rest of it could potentially be coming at Gamescom, because it would make sense, wouldn't it, for that to come at Gamescom rather than E3.
Yeah, they've got to hold something back, haven't they? So you meant, just going off point a minute, you mentioned your Spectrum days there. So were you a Spectrum man rather than a Commodore 64 man?
I was both.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
It seems throughout my entire life of gaming, I've always had both conferences. I've never had that kind of console war and this one's better than that one. I've always had all of them. I'm a spoiled little brat, but I've always had all of them, so I never had to choose.
You're right, you're the golden boy of games, man. Back in that day with my poor parents, I had my Commodore 64 and a piece of coal to bath in. But that was up north, you know, so things are hard over the wall.
Absolutely, we had a console, we had a Spectrum in every room in my house, and we even gave one to the butler. But so we, all of those people that have been kind of down on Rare over the last couple of years, they can finally shush because Sea of Thieves, which I think you quite rightly said when we were chatting earlier today, it looks a bit like a Monkey Island, like Tales of Monkey Island.
Yeah, it's like it's Monkey Island, the action adventure. That's the way that I'm selling it to people at the moment. That's the way I'd explain it. It's like, what's it like? It's Monkey Island, the action adventure, and hopefully even more. And I think you could sort of tell that Rare were like sort of admitting, they were saying, yeah, we've been allowed to do something that we want to do now. We're off the leash. They've allowed us to get creative rather than making this. Well, I know you like your Viva Pinata, but it's not GoldenEye, is it? It's not Sea of Thieves.
It's quite funny. No, absolutely, it's quite funny. A couple of months ago, I think kind of like October-y time, Phil Spencer tweeted that he was on his way to Rare. So he's like, I'm visiting Rare today. And then, a good 10 hours later, he tweeted saying, I've just seen something from Rare, and this is the game that they want to make. This is just incredible. And so he teased it way back then, and then he was right. It looks a little bit Zelda. There was opening chests. Then there was it's just fantastic. I can't wait to kind of get into it and have a look at it. I think it's going to be fantastic.
It looks great. And I'll tell you something. My games that I want to spend on games ratio, I'm trying to work it out at the moment because the time is just going down and down and down. I'm going to like I don't know, 30 seconds on every game at the moment, the way it's going.
Yes. Well, absolutely. I mean that kept going for me because next up was Forza 6. So they showed a quick kind of. First of all, they lowered that amazing car into the middle of the area, and then they showed us Forza 6, which just looks incredible. We were talking about it last week. It's day and night racing. They're going big on their puddles, so there'll be a bit of aquaplaning on those corners, and it just looks fantastic. It looks like the game that they've been building up to for the last couple of iterations. It was almost like, right, okay, we've struggled with the engine, we've got that right. It's now 1080p, 60 frames a second. We've got that clock. Now we're just having fun and we're adding new stuff to it. And that's what Forza 6 looks like. And that's great. And that's coming out, as we were saying last week, as the leak kind of quite really got it right. And it was the 15th of September this year. So there were Forza 6.
Yeah. There's a guy that I follow, Jim Sterling. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he does the Podquisition podcast, and his website's jimquisition.com. He's been in the gaming industry for years. He worked at Destructoid for many years, but he's gone off freelance. I'm not trying to sell him or plug him so much really, but he's been in the industry for so long. He's quite cynical. And when they lowered that car, his Twitter comment just made me chuckle. He said, "For the price of lowering that car, they could have funded about 7 or 8 indies." I just thought that was brilliant. It's so funny. Just pure cynicism at E3. It's like, stop lowering that car. Why aren't you paying for more games to be brought out?
Absolutely. I mean, and after that, after the Forza reveal, we had a brand new trailer from Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that looked really good. It had been leaked already. With a single screenshot that IGN managed to get hold of. But yeah, the video came out. At the start of it, I wasn't sure what it was. I was like, oh wow, this is looking great. I was sort of getting used to things looking great. At this point, I was like, oh wow, it's something else that looks great. This is amazing. What is this? And then, yeah, you just saw this like massive giant rise up, didn't you? And it just looked, it's so... Getting fed up of saying it's amazing, I'm gonna have to get my thesaurus out and get some more spectacular, superlative, like giants rose out from the ashes or whatever it was.
But that was CGI.
It was a CGI.
That wasn't
it wasn't. There wasn't any gameplay in it, actually, was there? But it's just, I don't mind. I don't mind a CGI trailer. It sets the scene, and I just thought, oh wow! But as I said on the last podcast, spring 2016 is probably just about right. But I don't want Dark Souls to become too often to be released. I wouldn't want it to become, a big expansion every 6 months, followed by 6 months later a release. I really don't. I hope they don't go for that model. I know it's successful, but the pleasure in it is, part of the pleasure is in the wait and the anticipation. Don't milk it, please. Please don't milk it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then after that, we had a bit of a Ubisoft time where we had The Division and Rainbow Six. So I guess we'll cover those a bit more in the Ubisoft conference cover. But they look fantastic, and we'll get to those in a bit. And then after that, we then had Gigantic. Now this looked superb. You know, this I when I saw this, I just stared at the screen. I was just in awe of this game, and it looks fantastic. It's very, very cartoony. It's very stylized, almost cel shaded kind of RPG, and it looks amazing. And am I right? Is it going to be free to play?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe this because I was the same as you. I was watching this, and this assault on the senses of so much good stuff is just unheard of. You know, the last few years at E3, and then this came on. I was like, this looks well good. Look at this. This looks classic. And as you say, yeah, cartoony, sort of cel-shaded vibe, very colourful and bright. I was like, this looks great. I'm going to get this. And then it said free to play.
Wow.
And I thought games that look like this aren't free to play. Is this something new? Is this a new evolution in the free to play model? We shall see. Beta, August 2015.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a play of that because it just looks fantastic. So I really want to get behind that and see what it's like and see what and see what it plays like. And that's the great thing about the beta, because it is just like an extended trailer. You know, it's almost like it's helping everybody, isn't it? It's helping them test their servers, making sure everything's okay, and then we're also seeing if we really want to spend a lot of time with it. So it was fantastic. And then after that, if that wasn't enough, they then Microsoft then hit us with an ID at Xbox Games, and Microsoft were really big on the indies this year. They had them on stage, you know, they kept introducing them left and right, and we got a montage of all of these indie titles, starting with the one that had me kind of jumping for joy last year, which was Cuphead. And the game just looks, it's a 1930s looking cartoon. It just looks amazing. It's like a game that Walt Disney would make. It's fantastic.
Like Steamboat Willie, but the early cartoons where they're just gone to colour, isn't it? It's that sort of faded colour sort of feel to it. And I remember seeing this the previous year, and they were talking about it, and I remember them just doodling. They said, "Oh yeah, we just doodled this cup." I don't remember seeing any footage because I was like, "Oh yeah, Cuphead, I don't know anything about it." And I saw this, and I was like, "Wow, I want this game."
No, it was just in a montage last year, and it was like, as you were watching it, you're like, hold up, what was that? You know, and instantly just tweeting whatever that was, it looks great, and then you found out a bit later it was a game called Cuphead. They showed a little bit of it. I got worried at one point because I thought it was going to be some kind of boss battle thing, and it was a fighting game, but it's not. It looks like it's a side-scrolling platform with
platformer,
just it looks amazing, and I have watched that Cuphead trailer since Monday. I've watched it too many times. It looks fantastic. And that's great, you know. And they rolled out a load of ID and Xbox games. There was just some fantastic games. There was one called Beyond Eyes, which looked amazing. It was just like a painting. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, I loved that. It was like the Unfinished Swan, but with watercolor.
No, that's good. Yeah, good way to put it.
And like there's a little girl in I think it was sort of raining, and she was in like a Mac with a hood, and she was holding a blue umbrella, and there's a little puddle, but it was also so beautifully sort of rendered and drawn in like a watercolor aspect. And I thought, wow, I'm going to get that. I'm definitely going to get that. There was another game I jotted down, but I can't remember it now. Do you remember this one? It was called Ashen. It popped up, and I said, wow, look at this. But I haven't looked back at what it was because there've been that many games to think about. Do you remember that?
I do. Ashen? Yeah, Ashen was the game. It was a kind of third-person action game, and it was the one where they didn't have any faces. There was no expression. Everyone was expressionless, and that's developed. So yeah, that was a game called Ashen, and that was the third-person action RPG game where everybody they were just blank faces. So it was almost like cavemen era, but it kind of had a little bit of a Studio Ghibli feel to it, with things kind of flying around. There's been kind of like serpent monsters and things, but and again, it was like cel shaded as well, wasn't it? And it just looked looked fantastic.
That's right. Yeah, I remember it now. Yeah, and I'm just looking at some images now, and it's reminded me, like that big sort of whale that was hovering there, and it almost reminds me of a bit of a 3D Another World or Outcast, if you like. But yeah, that looks good. And there was a few. They're just two that I noted down. Beyond Eyes and Ashen. In the midst of, I mean, they were flashing up so quickly, weren't they? There must have been like 15 or 20 games, and there wasn't a bad one. And it's interesting that they are really pushing out the indie games, because there's been a lot of bad press about Microsoft and their indie process, where if an indie didn't release on Microsoft first, they wouldn't release it at all, and just their process for the indie developer to go through the Microsoft process being very hard work. But it looks like they've worked on that and embraced the indie developer, because there's definitely a lot more content now than I remember there ever being before.
Absolutely. It was just fantastic. It was just really good. I always enjoy their indie montage, and this year it didn't fail. There were some really interesting looking games. I can't wait for them to be kind of revealed later on.
Yeah, it made me yearn again for the old Summer of Arcade, because like in the old days you would have had Cuphead would be a Summer of Arcade game, for instance, wouldn't it?
It would be, yes. And I mean, like I say, there was just a whole load of games. There was one called Tacoma as well. Just looking at my notes, and it was really cool. And then after that, we had Tomb Raider. So they showed a playable section of Tomb Raider. So that was amazing. Looked great. Lara's going through it again, jumping on an icy scape, and so that looks fantastic. Can't wait to play that. That was just another one.
I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I was thinking as it played out, I was like, as she sort of jumped to the climbing up the icy mountain, and then that fell, and then she landed on some ice that started to collapse, and then she was running, and then she swung through a blocked cave entrance instead of falling into her death onto something that was sliding with an avalanche and coming after her. And I was like, how did they manage to get so many exciting moments one after another? I was just like, wow, this is awesome. It just looked, I was completely sold on it, and I thought, that'll bridge the gap until Uncharted for certain.
Oh, absolutely. You can see, looking at that game, why Uncharted, if it wasn't quite ready, that they got out of the way of that, because it's amazing. I say with you, even in that brief gameplay trailer, it was already one that just kind of got your heart rate running. And that's what the other Lara Croft that came out last year or the year before, that's what that did as well. It was fantastic, where it was just, again, these fast beat moments, and they were doing it really well on that. So I was quite impressed.
Yeah, it's funny because Tomb Raider sort of was at its day, and Uncharted sort of borrowed more than a little license from that, and became great in its own right. And then Tomb Raider, as part of its sort of reimagining, has borrowed off Uncharted, and the only winner is also we're going to play these games.
I know, absolutely. And right, so next up for Microsoft was a bit of HoloLens. So they showed a bit of a HoloLens demo with Minecraft.
Yeah, and wasn't it just amazing? I mean, my jaw, as I said already, hadn't left the floor, and they came on with this, and I was just like, oh, okay, let's have a look what they've done. And they said that they announced Minecraft was being developed specifically for HoloLens, and that got my attention straight away. I was like, oh wow, that's great to have it officially announced, because before it was just a tech demo. And then so they had a coffee table on the stage, and they had I think it was the girl, she was playing it on a Surface, so she was playing Minecraft on the Surface, and then the guy with the HoloLens, they were showing you a film feed through a special camera that can display what the person's seeing in HoloLens. And then I think the guy looked at the table, and because it responds to voice commands, and he said create world, and then it created the Minecraft world on top of the table live at E3 in real time on the coffee table. And yeah, I thought it was a moment to behold. I really did.
Absolutely. I mean, how are you? Because you were slightly down on HoloLens, a couple of weeks ago. You were. Well, but that is a demo that would just kind of quiet any skeptic, surely.
Well, I think it was a great demo. I was almost on my feet, like this, clapping on my own, giving them an ovation. But it doesn't change the fact that the field of view is really small, and they never mention it. So it's not going to look like it looked as they displayed it on the film. It's going to look like a small rectangle in the middle of that, and that's where you'd see the hologram. I mean, this is it's not a final unit yet. That field of view could be expanded, and if they expand it to show and your field of view is exactly like that, then welcome to the future. Yeah. But I would say that at this moment, I'm thinking that probably if you had a HoloLens on, like for that guy that was wearing it, he didn't see the whole picture like the viewers at home did, and the audience watching the video on the screen. He will have seen it through the constrained FOV, which is where HoloLens is now. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's great that they're at that point and that they can build upon that. What I'm not happy about is the fact that it's not really discussed. It just annoys me. And it makes me think that I'm a loose cannon, a rogue cell or something, saying the truth when it's trying to be brushed under the carpet. But so apart from that one caveat, I'm all over it. I think HoloLens is definitely the future. It's it's like the holodeck, isn't it, from Star Trek? It's absolutely amazing. I was blown away by it, and to do it live shows a lot of confidence in the hardware.
Absolutely. I think Microsoft are fully behind HoloLens. So, it's interesting. I'd like to see... I know it's hard for them. I know they can't show us what they're seeing, but I really would like to see if they have solved this kind of field of view issue. And because in order to play something like that, you need to see it like that. You need to be able to, in order to kind of work around that Minecraft-y looking building and that castle, you need to be able to go at it from 360 degrees and just pick up anything and move it all around. So by having this tiny kind of pinprick, it's really not going to work that way. But I guess we'll see more, because they are, they're getting ever closer to start announcing that that's going to be out. I'm sure that's kind of a E3 2016 that they're going to be. They'll be toting that a little bit more.
Yeah, they gave us a taster there, and it was a great taster. But yeah, exactly as you say, a game like that, and in fact any game, and with these gaming experiences that we're getting more and more sort of expecting, it's all about the immersion. VR is all about the immersion. Now, I know HoloLens is AR, so that's augmented reality rather than virtual reality, but nevertheless, a gaming experience or a HoloLens experience or a VR experience is all about the immersion, even more so when you're wearing an HMD or head-mounted device, so yeah. That field of view issue, that breaks the immersion.
It's a biggie.
And it's a biggie because it breaks the immersion, but this is a work in progress, and it's like I can appreciate that it's not the consumer unit. I mean, if the consumer unit comes out and it's got that constrained field of view, I probably would still buy it because I just can't help myself. But I'd like to say that I would hold back, and I'd hope that the consumers would hold back and sort of say, we need it to be full immersion, full field of view. Have we mentioned the Xbox sort of early access game preview feature?
No, that was kind of up next, and that was quite an interesting thing, because it's almost like they're emulating Steam, isn't it? With Steam early access.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I couldn't help but call it early access. Yeah, because that's what it is. They calling it Xbox Game Preview Community, I think, or some such thing.
And there's 2 games on there out at the moment. They've released 2 games, which is one is Elite Dangerous.
Yep, and the other one, The Long Dark.
Have you had a play yet? I don't know any of those.
Yeah, I did, because I'm a massive fan of Elite. It's a game that I absolutely love from being a small boy. I spent a summer holidays playing Elite and reading King Solomon's Mines, and I felt like I was a real Commander Jameson or Commander Witham. And what I did, I used to go off from Lave to Zeonce, and I'd land in the Zeonce system, and there was always a bit of time where you had to get close enough to the space station to be able to use your docking computer that you had to save up for. And during that time, I read a book, and it was as if I really felt as if I was reading a book in a spaceship. And it was a summer holidays when I was about 11 or 12, and it's got a place in my heart. So yeah, I was thinking Elite Dangerous would be a game that I would first play when I got my new kick-ass PC.
Mm-hmm.
And they announced that, and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. So I went on, being a gold member. So is it free for all gold members, or is it just preview beta people at the moment?
No, I think it's all gold members at the moment, so it's free to play. So when you fire it up, you get a kind of, do you want to do a trial, don't you? Or you can actually just go to the store and buy it.
Yeah, and the this sort of impetus behind this, the way they described it, was like you can have a go while it's being developed. You can see if you like it. I was kind of thinking, well, why not just have demos like you used to? So it's kind of giving us back a little bit of that demo feature. So I downloaded Elite Dangerous, and it's great. I had a go. I really enjoyed it. I thought, oh wow, I couldn't help but think though, wow, this is really a game for Oculus or some other kind of VR. I was kind of like, I can't see with those options that I would settle to play it in this manner. But it was great to have a look at. It worked like a charm. All I got to do was some of the training, because what I didn't realise about the early access was it's kind of a limited trial. So it was a 60-minute trial of the game that I got to play, and then it expired. And just as I was getting into it, I'd just done the tutorial for warping between star systems after doing a few combat tutorials, which were really cool. And the ship handled really nicely. I've never played a game like that on a console. I think the last game I played like that was Freelancer on PC. Yeah, it was really good, but then my 60 minutes was up and it booted me out and gave me the option to buy it or get lost. And yeah, I really liked it, but I thought that maybe if they could have just left the tutorials alone and not let you play the real game or something, but let you have it for as long as you want. I thought 60 minutes, especially for a game like Elite, because it's got a curve, you know, you've got to learn each sort of nuance and aspect of it. I thought 60 minutes was a bit low, but you know, it gave me the opportunity to look at it, and I'm thankful for that. So yeah, it works really well, and it was good. So,
but with the preview program, can't you just buy it now and start playing, and then you'll get updates that will just come out? So isn't the idea of the preview program is you could either buy it now in its shonky state, you know, I'm not saying Elite Dangerous is shonky in any way, but you can buy it now in its kind of development state, or you can wait until it's finished and then it's right, this is now version 1, but you can play kind of 0.1, and you'll just get incremental updates, because that option that you have to buy it, you get it now. So you start playing the story of Elite Dangerous, and you'll get incremental updates from the developer as they improve it and continue to develop it.
Well, I didn't realise that. What I thought was you got the trial, and that was the preview. And then I saw to buy it afterwards. It was like, it wasn't expensive either, which was nice. It was £29. And but the feeling I got was that it wasn't available now, and that I'd get that when it came out, because it said coming soon. So I didn't realise that. So that's interesting. Is that a fact? Yeah, because I didn't know.
I'll check that out as we're chatting, but I do think that is the whole idea. The way they were talking about it during the conference, I'm sure that was the case of you could start playing it now, a bit like DayZ on PC. You can start playing it now, you can enjoy it, but it may be a bit buggy. There may be some issues, and you know, at one point they're going to get to this is version 1, but you were playing it now.
Yeah, well, and DayZ is another one that's going to come to this game preview area. But yeah, well, I got the wrong end of the stick then, because I thought the preview was my 60 minutes, because I'd never seen it on there before, and then I thought I was pre-ordering it for day of release, so I didn't bother with that. But if that's right, then that's really cool. Yeah, that's better than I thought. I just thought that you got to tinker for a bit for free, and then that was your time. But yeah, cool. So
absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'm just going over to our friend Major Nelson, which was the preview program feature lets players the opportunity to download and evaluate a selection of games under active development. Every game in the program has a free trial, allowing the community to get involved and provide feedback. The first 2 titles are this. So it's an interesting one. We'll have to find out, and then we can report back in our next podcast.
Yeah, from that soundbite, I think it could go either way, couldn't
it?
So yeah, we'll find out. That was the impression I got. But what you say makes sense too. We'll find out, and we'll report next week.
Absolutely. So last up, and they finished with a big bang or a big rip of a chainsaw, because last up was Gears of War. So we got Rod Ferguson came on stage, the head of Coalition Studios, and he announced Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which is a remake of the original Gears of War. It's going to be available on August 25th. I'm taking a day off work, and it's going to be running at 1080p, 60 frames a second, and a beta was available right now. And Microsoft were well on the button, because literally I think about 10 minutes after after he said that, I got an invite to the beta pop into my my inbox. It was like, as you were saying, Xbox was playing up on Monday night. There was obviously a lot happening, so I couldn't actually download the beta, I think, until about 1 o'clock or 1 a.m. or something like that. I couldn't start downloading it, but Since then I've had a play of Gears Ultimate. Just the multiplayer is part of the beta. Amazing. Yeah. It's incredibly smooth. It's quite nice. Eurogamer, their Digital Foundry side, they did a comparison. They did the side-by-side comparison of Xbox 360 and Xbox One Gears of War, and it just looks so smooth. It looks incredible. So it runs super smooth. It looks incredible, and it just plays. It's Gears. It plays as Gears does, and it's fantastic. And I can't wait. That's another one that I want to kind of digital download and be there day one for.
Gears is as Gears does, as they say.
Absolutely.
And, I remember I was a bit peeved when I heard that you got your code. I was like, well, where's my code, Phil? Why are you leaving me out?
Exactly. Maybe it's because I've clocked more hours of Gears. They were doing it that way. They were like saying, right, okay, who's clocked the most hours of Gears? And then we'll give. But you've got yours now, haven't you?
I got mine. Yeah, I got it today. But it might. Yeah, I got mine today, and so I've got it waiting to have a look at. But I haven't had a look at it yet, as I was being tempted by Geometry Wars and a bit of Elite Dangerous, as I just mentioned. But I'll probably have a go at that later today.
Absolutely, it's well worth a go just to kind of see, what that new version or the new shiny version is going to look like. And
then, how they reimagine it, how they make it better. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a interview later with Rod Ferguson, and they were saying that they have stripped everything out of the original one, apart from the sound and the music and the voice, obviously, because you don't want to tamper with that. But they rebuilt every asset, and you can tell when you're playing it. It looks incredible. And then after that, they then, which I didn't think we would actually see gameplay demo of, but we got to see Gears of War 4. So they showed a live gameplay demo of Gears of War 4. You had two new protagonists, so that we'd never seen before. Both of them had the cog rifles with chainsaws, and they were both in cog armor as well. A bit of a stripped down version, and there was a lot of exploring, a lot of kind of walking through, and then we got to an open area, and we saw a very different enemy. So this was not Locust. This was a very kind of different enemy that kind of just jumped forward, and then they started the shooting and the chainsawing, which again was all live. I think it was actually Rod Ferguson was doing the demo. So whether he was playing or just looking cool with a controller, so he showed it, and it just it's Gears. It looks fantastic, and hopefully it's going to just push it on. So we didn't see Marcus, we didn't see any of the old crew. We've got new people, so it's very interesting. It's definitely. I mean, I'm a big Gears fan anyway, but it's definitely piqued my interest.
Yeah. I thought it would look really good as well. Very sort of full of suspense as they roamed around sort of in the dark, and then we got this reveal of the new enemy, sort of squid-like thing that attacked. It looked really good. Great way to end the conference, and that was it. That was Microsoft conference, and a great conference. I thought a strong delivery. I thought they knocked it out of the park. For me, it reinvigorated a lot of maybe waning enthusiasm in gaming that I've got. I've been a bit cynical about Microsoft. You've heard that come out. I haven't held back. I try and be fair. I'm not. I know you say you jokingly say I'm a PS4 fanboy, but I think I'm a fair gamer, and I didn't feel that my Xbox was delivering me enough fun to make it worthwhile. But after that, I was invigorated. We're called Gamers of the Lost Spark. It put the spark back into me, that conference. I'll tell you that for nothing.
No, fantastic. I thought it was a really good showing. It built on what they were doing last year. It fixed the mistakes of a couple of years ago when they were talking about media and all of that, and they were trying to pitch it at a very different audience. But, sitting there, I realised why I like console gaming, why I like Xbox, and it was just there was more of it to come over the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, and they tapped in very well and very intuitively, I thought, into what makes us gamers, what makes us gamers tick, why the games that we love, and what we love about games. And I got to say, I attribute a lot of it to Big Phil.
No, absolutely. I would love to. I'd love to know if there's going to be a, maybe a book would come out soon to find out kind of about the Xbox One. But there's definitely a change, isn't there? There's definitely a feel of change at the moment. A feel of change completely. That was an unintentional pun, but there is a feel that there's definitely a big change.
Yeah. Xbox One behind closed doors. There's a Kickstarter.
Absolutely, that's a book. That's a book or a movie I'd like to see. I wonder who could play Phil. As,
go on, you can do it.
No, Ben Affleck, obviously. I think I do say that for everything. So anyway, right. So after that, we had a bit of, I think there was about an hour and a half, and then we had EA. So EA, Electronic Arts, came out with their conference. I'm never normally excited for EA conferences, but they have Star Wars this year, so there was a bit of excitement kind of going into it. Unfortunately for me, it was a bit of a lackluster. Event. I sat there, went through it. It started off definitely with a bang, and they showed Mass Effect Andromeda, which was shown for the first time. There was a lot of rumors that this was going to happen, that there was going to be a Mass Effect and maybe even a Mass Effect collection, a HD collection. But there was no talk of that. But there was Mass Effect Andromeda. So, which looked very nice.
Yeah, I thought it looked really nice, and I get excited about the strangest things. It showed the sort of land crawler. It's called the Mako or Mako, which is what you roam around the planets on. And it was fast. It was going really quickly across some planet or other. And I was like, oh wow, look at that! Look at it. It looks really cool. Maybe they've tweaked it. It looks really good. But the whole thing looked good, and I'm a big fan of Mass Effect. Played all of them. And this is a weird thing because I'd love an HD remaster of that for the people that haven't played it, but I wouldn't get it myself because I couldn't invest the time, And for me, the adventure that I had and the choices that I made, the one on my one playthrough, because I'm a bit like that, that was my adventure, and nothing could change that, and so I couldn't play it again because I would remember the choices I made, if you know what I mean. So I've had my adventure with Commander Shepard, and that's it for me. But for the people that have never played it, to bring that out on one disc, or for one price, that'd be really fantastic. But yeah, it looked really good. I'm a big fan of that universe that they've made up and that IP. So yeah, it looking like a fantastic game, and another one for my list.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's got a release window of holiday 2016. So we're already, 2016, Christmas 2016 is already looking really busy as well.
By this point, I was sort of not minding the 2016 stuff so much because I'm thinking I'm going to be busy until then.
But if I was anyone that was going to, if I was any other game that was going to come out that time, I would seriously consider kind of getting out of the way, similar to this November. If you're not Assassins or Call of Duty, get out of the way of Fallout, because that's a big game, such as same as a Mass Effect. Yeah. So we had that, so that was fantastic. That was really good. I was like, oh, hello, EA, you're up to something here. And then they just they went back to EA, and we were Need for Speed or Fast and Furious. I like my car games, but this one was packed full of cheesy, bad acting.
How could the way that they stand by this stuff and they act as if it's the coolest thing ever? But it's like, how can they not see? Well, maybe they can, but it's just like, oh my goodness me, it doesn't seem to work. But it looked nice though, didn't it? Those nighttime graphics.
Oh, absolutely! It looked fantastic. There was one point where where the cheesy actors kind of went off, and then it was like they were showing a car, and at one point I was kind of squinting at my TV, thinking, "Is that a real car, or is that kind of?" And it looked fantastic. It was actually an in-game car, and it looked amazing.
Yeah. That transition that they did from the live action to the car in the garage, and I was like, you couldn't even tell. You could not even tell that it went from live action to graphics, could you? Unless the car was always graphics, and they sort of just transposed the actors on top. I mean. That was good. The actors were rubbish, but the technology there that was being shown, that was amazing.
Yeah, no, it did remind me of kind of almost old generation of how people used to think the gamers talked and how we reacted with each other, and it was just terrible. But it looked incredible. It's not on my list, but it looked good. Yeah. And then up next was something that just blew me away, which was Star Wars, obviously, but it was the Knights of the Old Republic or Knights of the Old Republic Fallen Empire. I think it's a free add-on to Knights of the Old Republic, and it was just a CGI trailer. But I think I tweeted, I think I said at that point, make a movie with these graphics. This CGI is fantastic. I love Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Clone Wars, but to make a movie with these graphics, they're fantastic. They looked really good, and I was, I've never really played an Old Republic game, and I know if they would have switched to gameplay that there is a ginormous step down from those graphics to kind of what it looks like and how it plays, but it was fantastic. If you're into your Knights of Old Republic, then this is gonna blow your mind, and it just looked fantastic. And they seem to have, there was two twins who were battling the Empire, they were battling the Rebels, they were Sith, and it was just, I was like, this is fantastic. If this is Star Wars lore, it's incredible. Maybe they'll bring a book out or a graphic novel or something that I can kind of catch up on who these characters are, because it looked amazing.
Yeah, it did look really good. Is Star Wars: The Old Republic? This is the MMORPG, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. Yes.
I was talking to my friend about this, and I was like, "This is all well and good. I mean, yeah, it did look fantastic." And they were saying, the fans were all crying out for they want an engaging story, and this is what we're bringing with this expansion of Knights of the Fallen Empire. And I was thinking, yeah, that's great. You've listened to the fans, fantastic. But I would never play an MMORPG for an engaging story, because you can't all be the hero. You can't all be the hero. Apart from the fact that they're so time-consuming and there's so many other games to play, I don't play them because of that. Because when I play in a game, I like to be the hero. I like to be Master Chief or Nathan Drake or Solid Snake or whoever it is. You want to be at the centre of the story, and it's all happening to you, and it's like you're the star of your own film, aren't you? That was always the thing for games with me. It's like you're the hero. In an RPG, a massively multiplayer online RPG, you can't all be the star. So I'm sort of like, how can they do that? How can they make everybody bothered? It's quite difficult, unless they just support one of the black or the white twins. The dark side or the light side twins, and they're all in the faction. But still, it's not the same. But I suppose they'll do it in the best way for the mindset of the people that are playing the games, and I don't know how it works really, because I've never played any World of Warcraft or EverQuest or this either, for the reasons that I've just given. But it did look amazing, and I'm right with you. Yeah, you want to deliver an engaging and amazing story, just have this as a film. Like they've been talking about having movies of games and having the game sort of tie in with it. Surely the MMORPG format would fit really well with that. There was a game that they were doing it with, and I can't remember it now, where the TV series was going to sort of tie in with the game, and it sort of flopped. That's
Quantic Dreams. Is it Quantic Dreams?
Was it?
The Quantic Dreams new one, which is the guys who did the American Nightmare series. So yeah, that's coming. They're going to show that. Microsoft are going to show that at Gamescom.
Oh right, this was an older one, a science fiction one that sort of fell on its arse.
Okay.
But
right.
Yeah, so what I'm getting at there is they could do that with an MMORPG rather than sort of a console shooter, which is what this other game was that tied in. And I think that would work really well. But good luck to them. I hope they do it, because I didn't think you could have any kind of sort of individual storyline in a game like that applies specifically to you just because of the nature of the game. But, it looked great. But the next game that came on, I thought was probably, apart from Star Wars Battlefront, I thought it stole the show, really. Unravel.
Yes, absolutely. It's almost like EA scoured the lands for, let's find a cute little weird developer with a cute little weird game and show it in our showcase, because it was fantastic.
Unravel, I thought, was a fantastic new IP, interesting new game sort of thing, something new and original, though I suppose it reminded me a little bit of Little Big Planet. But the thing was, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, they brought out the dev guy onto the stage, and crikey, was he nervous. He was all twitchy and jittery, and basically Unravel was the game that he presented, and this game is about a little sort of yarn figure the developer created on a camping holiday, it turns out, as he went to great pains to explain to the audience who just wanted to see some gameplay. But he pulled out this little figure that he'd made out of yarn because he was bored on his family holiday, and he'd created a game using the yarn character, and to negotiate your way through different scenarios and different areas set in sort of the great outdoors. You could unravel some of the yarn and say, use it to swing over a gap by attaching it to a log, or maybe creating some kind of stairs, like a web-like staircase to navigate another obstacle. And it looked really good, and it just looked really charming, didn't it? It was really beautiful. But crikey, that guy was nervous when he pulled out the little yarn model. The camera zoomed in on it and on his hands. And it looked like he had the DTs, man. He was proper shaking.
He was really shaking. He was really... And that little model, the character, I kid you not, is called Yarny.
Is he?
Yeah, that's the character. I mean, it was adorable. You know, he was just like, he won E3. You know, I'm saying I'm not going to talk about who won E3, but that guy won E3. You know, he was just like, so you just wanted to give him a big hug. Yeah. You just wanted, you know, he was incredibly nervous. He was incredibly kind of, but he did well. And that, you know, and that game, again, you know, I love those games that you just kind of, you look at it and you go, what's this? And it's piqued your interest. You know, for me, that's a game I want to play straight away. And that's a game I want to back. You know, I want to get that day one and I want to play it. It looks incredible. It does. It's, you know, it looks like Little Big Planet, Yoshi's Woolly World, all together. You know, I want to see a fighting game actually with all those characters.
Oh wow, like kind of like the old Clay Fighter sort of thing, but with Yarn Fighter.
Fantastic. Yarn Fighter.
Wow, imagine the special moves they could have.
Oh, it would just be fantastic. You could knit a gun. That's what Yarny's special move is. Anyway, but this was a beautiful game, and it was just amazing, and it looked incredible. And then EA went and spoiled it all, so it was all feeling all kind of warm and fuzzy and glowing, and EA went and spoiled it by having just some ginormous zombie mascot come out on stage, and just kind
dance
of
around.
Point at people a lot, dance around. And then they showed the next trailer for Plants vs. Zombies, which I have to say, as much as I'm kind of mediocre, warm, medium to cold about Plants vs. Zombies, they did have the best music. They had Danger Zone being played over their trailer, which was just, you know, awesome.
I was scared then. I thought you were going to get really excited about it. I was going to have to say, oh mate, you can't be excited about Plants vs. Zombies God of War 2. No. It's poo. But yeah, it did have Danger Zone, and that was classic.
It did have Danger Zone, and you know, props for really good music. If there was an award that you gave for best music in a demo, it was for Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. And then after that, we had a whole load of sports. So the sports are shinier and sportier this year.
Never before. It's the same as it was 10 years ago, but it looks a bit more real.
But the funniest thing that happened was that just kind of after the sports and kind of before the EA, you kind of put the brakes on their conference. But before that, they trotted out someone who, you know, obviously drew the short straw, and he came on stage and he was like, right, let's talk about mobile. And then I looked at my Twitter feed and there was about 10 people that was all saying, rather not, you know.
WTF, what are you on about, man?
Absolutely. And then they showed a Star Wars game that looks interesting, and Minions Paradise. I love the movie. Despicable Me is a fantastic movie, and the Minions are amazing. But that game did not pique any kind of interest.
I couldn't believe they showed it, though. The way that they showed that, the sort of the trailer. And I started to think, wow, are you going to control? Is this going to be the actual in-game graphics? And then it zoomed out to be some kind of Viva Pinata wannabe. Oh my goodness me, it was just awful, wasn't it?
No, it really was. It was terrible. It was just, I mean, you can say, you know, that's going to sell bucket loads. The Minions have a movie out in a couple of weeks' time. You know that's going to sell so much, but oh gee, it was just, it was terrible.
And then they rolled Pele out. They rolled Pele out to sit there and just have the most boring conversation that I've ever known about pretty much nothing, and start slagging off American football in LA. I mean, just because I don't know why he did that. He's like, yeah, well, football's the beautiful game. To be honest, American football's rubbish. Soccer's the best. I was like, this seems really foolish move. What are you doing? Just because you've got Pele, and it's just it was just awful, and it really, talk about throwing a load of water all over it, it really just dampened the spirit of the whole thing.
Oh, it really did. Do you know what?
Twitter flared up.
Throwing a load of water. Tell you about throwing a load of water. That was my toilet break. That was like, right, I'm off, and I actually got to, I was having a few beers, so...
so you took advantage.
Well, Pele
I'll tell you
was
something,
on.
I think he bored the internet to death, because it was at that time my Twitch feed blew up, and I couldn't find a bleeding feed anywhere to get back online, so I missed... From Pele finishing it, slagging off American football and probably making a lot of American friends, my feed went. I was like, no, I just lost it. So I was then just roaming around trying to find where I could get back online. And Xbox Live was sort of really clunky as well, so I couldn't kind of do anything on there. So yeah, I had hard times. I didn't get back until a lady was talking about Star Wars Battlefront with a few stills behind her, and she seemed very boring, but luckily I only saw about 2 slides and then she got into the footage. So I missed Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Yes, so I mean, Mirror's Edge Catalyst was shown off. It looks incredible. Looks like the original, but shinier.
Wow. I love that game.
And it's reconfirming that this is an origin story as well, isn't it, of your character?
Oh, is it? See, I missed it.
Yes.
No, all I did, I've been pushed for time. See, so E3's fallen at a bad time for me this time because I've just been really busy all the time. So I caught the trailer. I was that pushed for time. I was just fast forwarding to the actual gameplay bits and not watching the story. So it's an origin story, is it? I didn't realise that. That's why it's called Catalyst. Absolutely.
So yeah, they kind of went through and they just showed the character that you play as a small girl, and then growing up,
Faith,
and then
is
next
it
it is. Yes, it is. It's the same character from the original Mirror's Edge.
Excuse me.
So that's quite cool. So that was there, and then so they went off from Mirror's Edge. They went on to what we'd all been waiting for. The reason why I was sitting there for an hour and a half, which was Star Wars Battlefront. So we finally got to see some highly anticipated, long-awaited gameplay footage of Star Wars Battlefront. And what they did, they got straight into the action, and it was a Hoth battle that they were showing. So there was a bit where you were in a snow speeder, you were zooming around Hoth. They also switched to a TIE fighter at one point, and you were chasing an X-Wing around all of the glaciers of Hoth, and it just looked incredible. And then they landed the X-Wing, and then you got out of that, and then you were then into a Battlefield-esque battle where, and I have to say, that the stormtroopers, they looked amazing. It was like you were playing a movie. I mean, as a Star Wars fan, this was just blowing my mind, and it was just incredible. Was your feed back up and running at this point?
Yeah, I got back up and running just before it started with the lady sort of showing these slides and talking about it, and I was in a fury because I'd lost my feed already, and I was like, this is ridiculous, no one wants to see this, what are you doing, sort of getting a bit mad. And then she said, she seemed a very monotone kind of person, but I didn't see the full presentation that she did, and she said, but we hear you want to see gameplay, so here it is. And then it went into it, and I saw it, and I was just like, thank goodness I saw this, because really everything else for me was filler. And the EA conference, everybody was just there for the Battlefront reveal of the gameplay. And I think I said this on my Twitter feed, it was a bit like turning up, the rest of it was really about like turning up early for the cinema, sitting through the adverts and the trailers before the main event, and that was the main event, and what a main event it was. I mean, yeah, absolutely staggered by the realism of that game. It's just pure Star Wars. It's the thing that I dreamed of as a gamer for all my life, that you're actually playing a film and not in a Dragon's Lair sort of way. These days, they're making games where you are actually in that environment, and it's so good. It looks better than, it's looking better and more shiny than the original trilogy.
It looked better than the prequels. I must admit, there was a bit where you were in the trenches in Hoth, and you're kind of running around. Great looking weapons, it just looked fantastic. And then suddenly you just heard Darth Vader breathing, and it was just hilarious. I did actually tweet it. I said, I actually gasped when you heard Darth Vader. I was, at that point, they had me. Do you know what I mean? They had me hook, line and sinker, and I was just loving it. And then, so you had Darth Vader. He was there kind of just destroying all of the rebels.
That's right, because a guy sort of got lifted up and he was getting choked, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And then they kind of panned back, and then there was Luke Skywalker.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, please, you just can't get any better. better than this. And it was just...
Yeah, he was in his Return of the Jedi outfit,
he was indeed.
Fully fledged Jedi.
Yeah, he had his turtleneck on. You know, it's cold on Hoth. You know, you've got to wrap up. He's a Jedi, but he can still catch a chill. So he's got his roll neck on, and he's just, you know, he's got Marks and Spencer's roll neck on, and he went off for it. And it was just fantastic. And then they started battling. So he pushed out some stormtroopers out of the way, went straight for Darth Vader, and then they started battling. I want to know how that works kind of in gameplay, and I want to know kind of how you do that. I think it's like a perk system, so you can kill 10 people in a row or something like that, and then you get to break out Boba Fett, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, anything like that. It was just amazing. And
yeah, it was so good.
EA, you know, they could have just had a blue screen for like 45 minutes and then just showed 15 minutes of that, and it still would have been an amazing conference. It really did. You know, I'm now looking, I haven't purchased it yet, but I'm looking, I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I'm looking whether to do it on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. I'm trying to find where the most of my friends will be, because this is a game where I want to kind of get in, you know, with you. I want to get in with my mates and just kind of really play this game as a big group, because I just think it's going to work amazingly.
Yeah, what are the majority of your guys going to get it on?
Well, it's funny because I've got a lot of friends that are on Xbox One, but then when it comes to playing games like Destiny or anything, you know, the multiplayer Battlefield and stuff like that, they seem to all gravitate over onto the PS4. So I'm over there on my Xbox One, and then everybody else is on PS4 played. So I want to kind of have a chat to everyone and just try and, you know, get it. What do you think you're going to get it on, Darren?
Well, yeah, I think you're going to have to come to the dark side, my friend. I'm going to get it on PS4 because it's going to run it better. There's no other reason. It's going to run it better. I reckon it's going to be, you know, higher resolution and a higher frames per second. So I'm going to get it on PS4. And if Xbox ran it better, I'd get it on Xbox.
No, absolutely.
That's it. You know?
I just want to make sure that whatever I purchase, that I purchase the kind of where a lot of people are, because I think this is a game that's going to be it's going to be enjoyed when you're with a group of like-minded friends, and rather than strangers that are not talking to you. I think it's going to be really good. So that was EA. And then they wrapped up with that, and then they were done. And then almost kind of, what was it, half an hour later, Ubisoft. So it was Ubisoft's conference, and as I was waxing lyrical about last week, Aisha Tyler was the host again. Did you watch it, Darren, or was that the point where you went to bed?
No, I missed. Yeah, I went to bed. I sort of, now I'm 40. I can't take it anymore. So yeah, I went to bed at that point.
Right. I mean, she did a fantastic job again. You know, it was very kind of sassy mouth with enthusiasm up the yin yang. You know, it was just fantastic. As I said last week, you know, the way that she presents herself, the way that she's talking, it's a breath of fresh air from those other conferences that you've just watched, because they're
so they try to, it's sort of cringy the way they try and shake the corporate, but they can't quite do it.
They just can't. Aisha Taylor, what she should do is she should go to all of those people. She should go EA, Sony, Microsoft, and teach them how to present a conference properly, because she does it. You know, she gets excited. She's a potty mouth, but she gets excited, and it's fantastic. So Ubisoft, so they kicked off with South Park. I thought this was going to be
great.
I thought this was going to be South Park remastered, because I never played the Stick of Truth, because at that point I was going over to Xbox One and I was packing up my 360. Yeah. So I thought this was going to be Stick of Truth on the Xbox One on PS4, but it wasn't. It was a brand new game, which is South Park: The Fractured But Whole. So we had an announcement trailer, and then we had Matt Stone and Trey Parker come on stage. It's quite interesting, because they said at the end of Stick of Truth, they said they would never do it again. They said it's bloody hard to create a video game, and they're never going to do it again. But, you know, here they are. Ubisoft obviously backed a large truck of money up to them, and here they are again, kind of doing another South Park game, and this looks fantastic. You know, I was thinking, with the backwards compatibility of Xbox One, if South Park Stick of Truth comes out on that and is available on that I might play that before this comes out, because, you know, I quite like South Park. It's always a giggle, and these games, you know, I've heard nothing but good things about Stick of Truth, so it would be interesting to just kind of have a game. And I think it almost was IGN's Game of the Year last year as well, so it was very close.
I was in the same position as you. I really wanted the game, and I was just moving systems, and it seemed a bit pointless when I was moving on to new things. So I was a bit sad about that. But yeah, you mentioned buying it on backwards compatibility on Xbox One. I was just thinking, I wonder if they won't make available games that they're planning on doing a proper remaster for.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, well, then saying that, I mean, I know it's not Rare Replay, is not a remaster, but, Viva Pinata's available, and that's on and Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, are all available on backwards compatible, and they're all...
Oh, good. So they're not going to, so that sounds like they're not just going to say, because we're going to make a new one, we're going to not make it backwards compatible.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. That's a good thing. I love that pun, the fractured butthole. It's class.
So, and then up next after that was For Honor. Now this it scared me. This was a new IP. This was a new, in a funny way, but it was a new IP from UbiSoft, and the guy came on who was the head of the of Ubisoft Montreal, and he came on, big beard, he had a cane, he was shouting at everyone, and it was pretty scary. And this is kind of a melee only action game that features that kind of favourite buzzword now of the gaming industry with visceral combat, and it was between Vikings, knights and samurais. Now this sounds like a game that you would actually make up in a playground when you were 10, but it looked fantastic, and what they did was they showed a trailer, and then after that they had a live demo of 2 teams of 4 people that were just kind of going and just fighting, and just in this big battle. It almost reminded me of those big battles that you see in Game of Thrones, where they kind of really go at it, and you could, during the battle, it looked like you could mark somebody. So if I saw a member of the opposing team, I could lock onto him, they lock on, and then you two just have a fight between the two of you, and the rest of the background noise just kind of backs off for a little bit, and then you can just fight just between the two of you. It looked fantastic. Not for me.
It looks really good. I'm just looking at some pictures. It looks, I mean, these stills that I'm not looking at any video because it'll feed into the what we're talking into the recording, but these stills it looks really good. It
looks fantastic. It's a great new IP. It almost looks a bit like Rise, which was out when the Xbox One came out, but
that's why I bought my Xbox One, so I think I'll be buying this.
Absolutely. But this is just kind of melee only 4v4 action game, so it was good. It was quite, like I say, the guy was very loud. The Ubisoft conference is available on available on YouTube, Twitch and stuff like that. It's worth watching just for this guy when he comes out and shouts at you.
I was going to just watch the trailer, but after you saying that, I watched the shouty guy.
He's very aggressive and he's very funny, but it's very cool.
He sounds like he just walked out of Bloodborne with his cane and what have you.
Absolutely.
You paint a picture, and I'm sort of picturing a guy in Bloodborne with his cane, sort of beating the crap out of everyone.
Big beard, hair slicked back in a ponytail. This guy was not a force to be reckoned with. And then after that, we had a trailer for a new expansion for The Crew, which was called Wild Run, which kind of reminded me of that kind of the game for PlayStation 3, which was the racing game, where you could just kind of race and you would explode, and it was a big festival. It kind of reminded me of that.
I know the one.
I'm trying to think of the game, and then so they had that, and that's going to be out in November. So that
not Destruction Derby.
No, but it was so they're going to have that, and then after that, they had another expansion. So this was kind of like 2 expansions that are coming out for titles. The next one was Trials Fusion Awesome Level Max, and this trailer, right, had
Twisted Metal.
Sorry, no, it wasn't even Metal. That. It was like it was the one that they had in 3D, because I remember playing it in 3D in Eurogamer. But this game, this edition, so it had it's called Trials Fusion Awesome Level Max, and it had a gun-toting cat riding a fire-breathing unicorn. So if you thought For Honor was like a kid's dream, this was just a weird kid's dream. And it was like, so these are all of the levels that they're going to be. This is a brand new expansion pack for Trials Fusion, so which was just incredible.
Wow, that sounds like a 60s kids TV.
Really, it was very trippy.
Whoa.
And then after that, they kind of got a bit serious, because what they did, they then had the Division guys came on stage, and they basically announced that Division will be out on the 8th of March 2016, and that there will be a open beta very soon for this as well. I think at the beginning of 2016, we're going to get a beta first, and then it's the 8th of March 2016 is when the Division comes out. And what they did was they then showed a huge demo of gameplay where they featured a team of players going through what they called a contaminated dark zone. And this was really interesting. The gameplay looked fantastic. The one thing there were two things actually that I really liked. The first one was how these guys were playing together. It's quite interesting to see this, because this is how games like this should be played. You know, there's lots of people that are talking to each other, saying, you go over there, you go there, you check this out. I don't think we should do this, you know, because a lot of the time when I'm playing online with people, it's normally just a case of, kill everybody, you know, and it's just kind of run around and people are a bit crazy. But this was Aisha Taylor was one of the ones that was playing, and it was a very controlled, and they were methodically going through New York and just picking off people and making choices, and it looked fantastic. And if I can, you know, if you and I and a couple of others could play the Division like this, we're in for a right treat with this game, because it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I thought I saw the not in the UbiSoft demo, but I saw the demo in there. I think it was the Microsoft conference, and yeah, it made me remember and hark back to when it was revealed, and the excitement that I had then. And I thought, you know, sometimes when it's been a year or whatever, you can sort of feel that it's dated, or you're not that interested anymore. But I thought it was pretty stirring stuff, and it was another game that I thought, I could see myself getting this one.
No, absolutely. You know, it looks like there's a campaign where you're playing with 4 people, and like I say, if we can play kind of similar to this, you know, very methodic, and everyone kind of going at a nice, slow, easy pace. It kind of reminded me of another UbiSoft game that was out when I bought my original Xbox, which was Ghost Recon. The original Ghost Recon, where you had to take it slow. You know, me and a mate way back when, we would spend hours just waiting, snipering from a distance, and just really taking it slow. And you know, some people might find that boring, but for me, it was great, because it was really building up the tense, and there was tense in your levels, there was excitement in your levels, and if you did fluff up, it really felt like you was letting the team down, and it was really cool. And I remember just, you know, the very early Ghost Recons were just amazing.
Yeah, and the satisfaction for well-planned tactics paying off, you know, you can't really beat that feeling. It was good, more of a calculative, slow burner. But yeah, what a payoff at the end, yeah.
Now, the funny thing about the trailer, or not the trailer, the gameplay section that they did, at the end of it, they called in a helicopter, so a helicopter was coming around, and this is stunning realization of New York. There's a virus has broken out just after Black Friday, so it's almost Christmas. It's quite scary, but then, so this helicopter's just about to land, and as it's about to land, one of the players turns on all of the other players and starts shooting them, and then he starts shooting and looting and backstabbing the rest of the players, and then jumps in. I mean, it's a total dick move, but it was really good that mechanic is in the game. I quite liked it, you know, but I wouldn't do it, so don't worry about that. But it was just, I thought, you know, you're gonna hate that guy, you know, if you're next day when you see him or something, you are going to give him a massive wedgie.
Just that's allowed is quite awesome, really.
It really is, because
you know, usually you're on blue team and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and this will be kind of, you get to the end and then you just kind of, you know, your one eye or still kind of just, instead of, you know, in Destiny when you're dancing for about 10 minutes, you would just be kind of keeping an eye on your teammates just in case they decide to go rogue on you.
Like a Good, the Bad and the Ugly standoff. You can almost hear the music as you've got this counter to the end of the game. There's 10 seconds, and it's like diddle, 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 and everyone's just like waiting. Is someone going to make a move for that helicopter? Because I'm going to get him.
Absolutely, it definitely adds a little bit of tenseness to it. So that was fantastic. That's next year. They pushed the Division back. You know, they've pushed it back about twice, and as I keep saying with the Division is, take all the time you want, because this is looking incredibly special. So just take the time you want and produce that game that you really want to produce. And
I think Shigeru Miyamoto said something like a bad conference, A3 conference or whatever, is bad forever, but a delayed one is just late but can still be brilliant. And I think you can apply the same to a game, you know. Like a bad game, if they rushed out The Division, for instance, it's bad forever. They get rubbish reviews, be remembered as bad, more bad reputation for Ubisoft or whoever at the time. But a good game's a good game forever. You know, you delay it, you might wait a year. Look at Last Guardian, I mean, we'll get to that. But a good game's a good game forever, isn't it? You know, so just wait and do it properly. Don't rush it. Learn some lessons from Assassin's Creed Unity and move on and upwards.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the rolling themes throughout this entire Ubisoft conference was, you know, last year we had, you know, a pretty rough year. You guys have let us know, you know, you've let us know with your comments, and we've heard you, so we're trying to do better. And that was, I thought it was quite honest, and a very interesting stance from Ubisoft. But up next was Anno 2205, which is a futuristic city builder, where you can develop towns and resources on Earth, and I think the end goal of this game is to launch a ship to the moon. Stunning. I mean, jaw-droppingly beautiful. The trailer was amazing. I'm not normally into kind of the city builder games, but I'm all over this, and it's going to be out on November 3rd, and there's going to be a beta for this as well, which will be later on this year. So that looks incredible.
It looks beautiful. I'm just looking at it now. Surprising, not the natural home for a game like this on console, but it's good to see this type of game because really enjoyable. This looks good. Wow.
No, it looks absolutely incredible. Up next was Just Dance. Yep, Just Dance. They're still kind of milking that cow. This was available on every platform you can think of. I think it's either on microwave and fridge, and you don't even need a camera. You can just put your smartphone in your hand and wiggle it around and dance.
Oh yeah, the old accelerometer feature. Cool.
Absolutely. So they had that. You know, it's good fun. They had that. Then up next after that was Rainbow Six. So Rainbow Six was also getting a beta. You know, you can feel that Ubisoft are testing every game now before they roll out anything. You know, they are testing. One of the things that I did notice as a theme throughout the E3 is that there's betas available. You know, the public are going to be your testers, your second level testers, and
not at time of release. Not at time of release. Not when they bought it. Yeah,
exactly. So we had Rainbow Six Siege, which comes to all platforms on September 24th. And again, there's going to be a beta for this as well. And it also shows the return of Terrorist Hunt, or Terror Hunt as they called it, which was a mode that was in Rainbow Six Las Vegas, I believe. And it looks fantastic. You know, it looks really good. Again, they had a whole bunch of people demoing this, so there was a team of 6. They were chatting, they were really communicating amongst each other, and they went through a level. And the funniest thing was that Aisha Taylor said that she'd seen that kind of level played out a couple of times, and that was the first time that day that they'd actually beat it, where the other times they'd all been killed. So I thought that was quite an interesting one, and I think I might have wanted to see the team kind of go down rather than finish it successfully. But that was really cool. Looks amazing. I'm still on the fence with that game. If there's going to be a beta, that would give me a chance to kind of have a play and kind of get into it.
Yeah, I've never really got into Rainbow Six. You know, I don't know why. I think it was the slow burn, but I did like Grow, so it's a strange one. But yeah, if there's a beta, it gives more people that are on the fence, like you said you are, and myself, you know, dive in, and you never know, it might get themselves a new army of fans.
Absolutely. The next game was incredibly interesting. Now, this is a game called Trackmania Turbo. By all accounts, it's a big game on PC, and it's now coming over to current-gen consoles. But Trackmania, the best way to describe it to you, Darren, would be kind of a track-building game that fuses Formula 1 and Wipeout together. That's what I've got on my notes. And I was just in my notes is wow, Wipeout and F1, because you've got these Formula One-esque cars. You can build a track any way you want. You can you add all the environments, you put the track on, it goes round in a loop, it goes up a cliff, and it's fast, and it looks fast, and then you can test people's times. It's a bit like Trials Fusion, but with a bit of a track builder in and a bit of F1. It felt very Wipeout when they were controlling it. Well worth a look at. If there's a trailer somewhere online, which I'm sure there is.
Is this at the point of like AAA full game, or is it like an indie type thing? Is it like a Valiant Hearts sort of level, or is it like full game sort of level, sort of division level, or is it more mid-ground Rainbow Six sort of level?
No, I would definitely say it's more Valiant Hearts. It's more like an indie game. Okay. They showed it. Obviously, there's a track builder that you can randomly generate levels and you terraform environments and all of that. But what they did was they showed the 4 or 5 levels that you can have, like a bronze, silver, gold, etc., platinum, and each one had X amount of tracks, and they were saying, like, if you count all of those up out of the box, there's like 400 tracks, and then you can make your own, and it was just incredible.
Sounds good.
And it was one of those games where I was just sitting there going, please say it's available now, please say it's available now, because it was just incredible. It was just amazing. And there was two guys that kind of came out, they demoed it, they did a live playable demo. And for me, that is on my want list.
Oh wow! I'll have to have a look. I got 2 questions about it for my excitementometer. Do the vehicles have wheels?
Yes.
Oh, that's a shame.
But you never know. There could be DLC, or there could be more track. Yeah, there could be more stuff that they hover.
Yeah, I like hovering stuff. It's only a graphic, right? It bothers me. And I don't suppose they've got a stream of light coming out the back then?
No, there's no stream of light. Just burning rubber.
But I'm gonna go with you. I bet with you advocating it like that, it sounds like it's gonna be good. And I love making racing tracks and stuff like that. It reminds me of Racing Destruction set on my Commodore 64, but that came on 6 tapes. It was ridiculous. It took ages and ages and ages to play, and now we're getting games that like surpass it in every way, and they're just little indie games, which are really cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's called Trackmania Turbo, and they didn't give a release date, I don't think, for that, but hopefully it's out soon. 2 more from Ubisoft. The penultimate one was Assassin's Creed EastEnders. So they brought out that. They showed a really nice chunk of gameplay. Looked great. I'm quite interested in this Assassin's Creed. I think we kind of reported way back in one of our first podcasts about Assassin's Creed. Looks great, looks fantastic. They showed building up gangs and taking crews from rival gangs, and there was a chariot race across a bridge, and it looked great. It looks Assassin's Creed. I'm very interested in it. After last year, I am going to go in it with caution, but we'll wait and see. I just think there's a lot of games coming out this year that Assassin's Creed may just kind of slip a bit, even though it's looking fantastic. I think that may slip, i.e. in release date terms, but it also might slip from my list as well, because I just think there's too many other quality games that could take it.
Yeah, that maybe aren't quite as repetitive of the last games. As that's what I think. It's like I'm not going to get it because I'm sort of fed up with the formula, and the story has got so fragmented. I haven't got a clue what's going on, and I don't care. That's the thing. It's not engaged me, but it's early days. I mean, if they show me, if the trailers and the gameplay show me that it's got enough in there that's different, enough variety and enough improvement on the last games, like Black Flag with its ships, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that, though. That was the breaking point for me. I never bothered to complete it. It's sort of the wanderlust just left me. The passion to play the game just left me, and I wasn't bothered about Unity, especially with all the bad feedback. And I'd sort of like to be bothered, but this is the thing. There's too much, and us gamers that perhaps don't have as much time as other people, you're going to have to be more discerning and discriminating with what games we choose. And as fancy as the graphics look, and I saw the Sony part for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and I thought it looked really cool, and it concentrated on the sister. Is it Evie or Eva?
Yeah.
and she had the cane, like the guy that you were just talking about. Actually, she might have borrowed it off him, or vice versa. And I thought the combat looked really, really cool. But I was thinking, well, if Batman's going to do that combat better, but then it wouldn't have the exploration. But there's all these other games with exploration. Like you say, it might slip for me. What I do hope is that it slips from many of its fans as well. To if it hasn't got that injection of new fire, to just say to Ubisoft, come on, mate, guys, we're getting a bit sick of you just reskinning the same old game with a convoluted story. Just either finish it and make that amazing, or just stop it and invest that money elsewhere. But as we've said before, it sells like hotcakes, and I'm sure it's making Ubisoft millions. So it's a train that's probably not going to stop anytime soon.
No, absolutely. So that was kind of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and then they finished up with a nice surprise. I was kind of talking about it earlier, but that was Ghost Recon. So they announced a brand new Ghost Recon, and this is called Ghost Recon Wildlands. And this was quite interesting because it's a co-op shooter, as obviously Ghost Recons could be, and it's also set in an open world. So what the trailer showed was they had this one mission to take out this character called White Hat, and they showed 3 different ways to approach this single mission. So there was basically a drug bust. They could see the cocaine, all of that, and they were like, right, go for it. So they did a long range option where they were snipering at this guy, and they were like, yeah, done. They did a stealth option where they were encompassing this camp and taking it out, and then they just did an all-out kind of guns-toting way of doing the mission. So I just thought, as a demo, as a reveal trailer, I thought this just did really well, and it really piqued my interest.
Yeah, that sounds good. I haven't seen that, and I haven't heard of it either. So
it's really good. So it looks fantastic. I think they had about 6 people in the crew that all looked like kind of contract, kind of military men, and so they had that. And then, like I say, it was just the different approaches to these missions and how each one went down was quite an interesting end to the Ubisoft conference.
Wow, well, it must have been good if they're going to finish on it. So I'll check it out. It's starting to be that I can't see the wood for the trees with all these good games.
But no, it was very cool. It was.
So overall, then, what did you think of Ubisoft's conference? I mean, I'm guessing it was better than EA.
Absolutely, it didn't disappoint. It was, I knew that I had. I think this kind of finished roughly about 12:30. So we were like midnight, and I had another hour and a half to wait until Sony's conference. But the Ubisoft kind of left me on quite a high. So I had like Star Wars Battlefront from EA, and then Ubi's being kind of, apart from Just Dance, which again was another kind of bathroom break. Apart from that, I thought they did really well. I thought it was a sterling job, and again, I think Aisha Taylor did an amazing job. And it was quite interesting because I had a quick look at Twitter, and there were people going, "Oh, you suck," again they were doing that, and I was just like, "This is just ridiculous." I thought she was
vindicated. I thought she was vindicated.
Well, exactly, but there was, there's always, haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate, yeah.
I believe Taylor Swift says. We're just like middle-aged men now, quoting Taylor Swift.
Quoting the kids.
Down with the kids. So there you go. Game was Lost Spark went down with the kids. So that was that. And then, so next up was the biggie.
Yeah, so you stayed up till, was it 2 a.m. or 3 a.m?
It was 2 a.m. So there was no chance of me going to sleep at this point. So I was in for the long roll. I still had some beers. I had some sweets. I was ready for...
You did well. I must admit, I felt quite ashamed going to bed, but I just couldn't do it. But yeah, so Sony kicked off, didn't they? And this was the big one that we'd all been waiting for, apart from Microsoft. CEO Sean Layden walked out. I don't think... I mean, maybe I saw him last year, but I didn't remember seeing him before. He's a pretty new CEO, isn't he?
He is. He's the guy who took over from Jack Tretton, isn't he? So
that's right. Yeah, he's a very, very different guy. He sort of seems to be permanently shrugging. He reminded me of Michael McIntyre a little bit, sort of no neck kind of guy with his shirt up. Sort of made me laugh when he came out. I thought, who is this guy? But he soon proved himself after he did a little tiny bit of corporate chatter, and then he announced a game that we've been waiting for a long time, and I was like, "Oh, what could this be? What could this be?"
Absolutely. I mean, they brought out Shuhei Yoshida, didn't they? Who I just think there's a lot of people that I would like to meet, kind of in this world right now. But Shuhei Yoshida just seems to be just a genuine nice guy. You know, he's always laughing, he's always smiling. You know, he's always just like, I would love to meet Shuhei Yoshida. And then, sorry, I ruined your big kind of intro, but they showed off a game that they've been teasing for 7 years.
That's what I was going to say. You know, he didn't come out till the end of it, but that's okay. You know. So yeah, they rolled the video, and we saw a feather, didn't we? Just sort of drop down, and then a few feathers. I sort of was thinking about this, and if a petal or a feather drops down in the start of a game demo reel, I'm going to love it. And yeah, anyway, it was Last Guardian, hooray, which everybody probably knows now. Anyway, and yeah, I was so like blown away by this announcement. I was like, you know, I was getting emotional, man. I was just amazed and in awe. It felt like, you know, the end of Lord of the Rings or something for me. I was just like, oh man, this is so good. This is like watching a blockbuster movie with all these amazing games coming out. Yeah, so it showed the Last Guardian actual gameplay footage. So we saw the cat, what do you call it? The cat, eagle,
big dog bird. I think
bird,
is it. I mean, now the footage that they showed, was this just a high res footage of the one that they showed 6 years ago? Because it was very similar, wasn't it?
I must admit, once I checked my emotions a little bit and thought about it a little more in a bit more of a pragmatic way, and I rewatched it a few times. I thought, yeah, you know, it looks sort of exactly the same as what we saw that long ago, and I was sort of hoping, because of this protracted time it's taken to get out there, that it might look a bit better. What do you think? I thought it might look better.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it looks fantastic. It's Team Ico. It looks a lot like that, but you know, I was captivated by the gameplay footage. But I was just thinking, you know, especially with the dog coming out and kind of spreading its wings for the first time, I was just, isn't this what we all kind of went crazy for in 2009? I wasn't sure. I've had a look around I was trying to find the original footage to see if I could kind of do a bit of a comparison. But I'm pretty sure it's almost an extension of this. Very interesting. I was really surprised. I know last week you were saying that they could potentially show this and that the Guardian had leaked that it was going to be there, but I was still in doubt that they would show this.
I was certainly. I was just saying that because there'd been an article about it. I was purposely not going to say it. I wasn't going to say anything about it unless there'd been. The only reason I mentioned it was because of that Guardian article, because I was just sick of hoping for it. So this is why I was so excited when they announced it, and I do think it looks brilliant, and I'm going to get it. But it sort of looked exactly the same, I thought, and I was expecting more. And I found out from reading something that I forget where today or yesterday, that they had a chat after E3 with either Shuhei Yoshida or Fumito Ueda about it, because it's all been a mystery of what happened since Fumito sort of left being a full-time employee for Sony, and he's gone off and started his own team called Gen Design, and they were credited as working on the project. So it seems that that's a little bit of the mystery solved as to what has happened. But they were saying that demo reel that we all saw and went crazy about in, was it 2009, wasn't anywhere near what the actual product was going to be at that time. You know, it was like proper hyped up, not hyped up, but technically souped up into a place that the PS3 couldn't do it.
Right.
And when they were actually running that as a playable game, you were getting something like 15 frames per second. You know, it was unplayable. So they were showing something there that could not be done on the PS3, and that might have been part of the troubles trying to get it to work on that hardware then. Why they didn't just say that, I don't know. But so it's only now that they can actually do what they wanted to do, and the PS4 can do it. But still, it looks so reminiscent of Ico. And the cat Weagle thing still looks great, but it's just, I expect, because it looks so much the same, because of the time that's passed, I just expected it to sort of have been improved, like an HD remaster from what we saw, if you like.
No, absolutely. I mean, like I say, the kind of Dogbird thing had, hopefully he'll get a name soon, but the Dogbird thing had lots of emotion. There was that time where he was afraid of some kind of round object that you had to destroy.
Oh yeah, like the shrine, yeah.
Yeah, and he was afraid of that, and you could see him just kind of going back and making a noise, and it was captivating, as a gameplay footage. I was just, it's almost like one of those games. It never normally happens to me, but it's one of those games that I'd be happy to just sit in a room and watch somebody play, because it was great. But I was with you. There was that kind of after you were like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this, and it looks, and there's that dog, and then you're like, hold up a second, that kind of almost that entitled gamer comes in, and then you're like, oh, hold up a second, it looks like it did, So we don't know when it's coming out. They did say that there's just going to be a release date of 2016. They didn't give a date. They just said 2016.
2016's good though. At least it's got a year now. At least it's got a year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is probably the thing I think with Sony is they apart from the Nathan Drake collection, they don't have anything, and the third party titles, they don't have any exclusive titles this year apart from Nathan Drake. So I was thinking that this is it. This is going to just shut everybody up, and this is going to be the one that they say, and it's out this Christmas.
Yeah, it probably shut me up, and I was like really elated and over the moon. I mean, I wish we'd been in the same room, man, because I think we would have just been like, oh, wow, this is amazing sort of thing, because I certainly was. But then, it was like, but it hasn't evolved. And when the excitement sort of came down, and when I got out of that bubble, which was way after the conference had finished and probably the next day, it was only then that I started to think this. And, when you compare it to something like Star Wars, what we're seeing for Star Wars Battlefront and what we're seeing for Uncharted and what we're seeing for Halo Guardians, I don't think it quite holds up, and it's really disappointing, and I hate to say it. And then I question my loyalty, and is it like that I love this and I'm on board with it just because of the way that just because of the story behind it? Well, no, not at all. It's because it's a Team Ico game, and because it's going to be fantastic, and I'll be emotionally invested in it. I already love the cat dog, bird dog thing anyway, even though I know that something bad's going to happen, and I don't want it to happen. But that's the thing, in the time this has been under development, you've had I don't know how many Uncharted's. You've had I don't know how many Assassin's Creeds, and there's all these games that have been developed within that period that are looking like just jaw-droppingly amazing. I mean, I think it's great. I'm really excited for it. I'm definitely going to buy it, and I love the fact that it's been announced. But I must say, technically, it doesn't make my jaw drop like some of the other things I've seen at E3. At the time when they announced it, I was too busy looking through tears and elation to realise this. And it's probably a good job that we had a few days before we did this podcast, because we could talk in a more sort of what's the word? Sort of a more practical way, and a more reasonable way about it. Because after the conferences, I was just like, "Whoa, everything's amazing! This is the best E3 ever," which I do think it is. But yeah, looking at it, completely objectively, I expected a little bit more, but I'm sure it's still going to be fantastic. And if the fact that it hasn't, it isn't hitting 11 or 12 on the graphics scale, means that it's going to run at a great resolution and a great frames per second, and it's going to have lots of variety and a fantastic story, and the controls are going to be tight, then who cares? Graphics aren't everything. So we shall see. But I'm definitely going to be getting it, and I still think it looks amazing. I'm saying that because I just feel like I've got to say it, but I'm just so pleased. I think it looks great. So, that aside, what I've said, not as maybe perhaps as great as it could have been, or my expectation it had, but still a fantastic looking game. And it seems I didn't know whether it was going to be more Ico or more Shadow of the Colossus, and it seems much more from what they've shown on this occasion, much more Ico than Shadow of the Colossus, which is a good thing.
No, absolutely. I was incredibly surprised that they've continued to make this game, because I did think that this would never come out. I thought it's one of those games where it's never going to live up to the hype. So I was very surprised that it came out, and the same with you. When it started, I was in tears, and then it was only a couple of days later when you're like, actually, but I can't wait to see more. I want to see more. There's got to be more. Hopefully, maybe at the Gamescom or the Tokyo Game Show, or even at the Paris Game Show that Sony are going to be showing at, because they're not actually at Gamescom this year. They're going to do Paris Game Show instead. So maybe they've got some more up their sleeve. But this kind of seems like a game that they would show at either PlayStation Experience or Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah, absolutely. And the relief on Shuhei Yoshida's face, and you could feel it, couldn't you? That he was like, I've waited so long to be able to announce this game. And you can imagine how he's felt over this development period, having his NDA and not being able to say a word about it to anybody, when the whole gaming industry or the fans are just clamouring for just any news on it. Every Sony interview, every Sony PlayStation interview, it's always been a question. And now at last the cat's out of the cat bird dog thing is out of the bag.
Absolutely, it's out of the little tunnel. Yeah. He's finally out.
Yeah. And he gave a little shout out to Fumito Ueda, who's it's his sort of creative idea. And
he was in the audience, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he got him to stand up and take a little bow, didn't he? And he got a bit of a round of applause. And I thought that was a nice and sweet moment, because there's been some ups and downs. I mean, you mentioned a little book about the Xbox One thing. I think there's probably a little book about the Last Guardian development.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then next up after that was Guerrilla Games. And Guerrilla Games announced a brand new IP called Horizon Zero Dawn. And if Last Guardian wasn't enough to drop your jaw, this certainly did as well. And this kind of the trailer started with a woman exploring a cave full of kind of paintings and ancient areas, and the narration was telling a story about how humankind and how civilization has crumbled. So it's set on Earth, but the civilization has crumbled, and they're reclaiming Earth, and so they're learning to hunt. There's all technologies, they're rebuilding civilizations, but the one twist that this has is that what they're hunting, or what they're being hunted by, are robots, are just these kind of sentient technology creatures that are attacking them, or they kind of look like dinosaurs. I thought it was some dinosaur game until she came out, and then suddenly you saw this robot kind of coming at her, and then when it pulled back, it was almost like that moment in Jurassic Park when they're just like, welcome to Jurassic Park, and there was all of these robot dinosaurs, I guess, which is a good way. They kind of resemble dinosaurs, were just there, and this character was hunting, or I think she was hiding to start off with, and then this scout came up and she took out the scout, and it just looked incredible. And this is from the guys there who made Killzone, so you're used to it kind of being kind of brown, but this was incredibly colourful.
I'm sure they were very relieved to sort of
play with a different colour.
Play with a different palette and have a break from sort of Killzone and get onto a new IP. And you can see that they've gone all out there for the colour and a bit of diversity there. It's sort of like they are metallic dinosaurs, like Zoids. Do you remember them? It kind of remind me of Zoids. They could have called the game Zoids and got in with a resurgence of that license. But I thought it looked amazing. If I'm going to sort of like hodgepodge a load of games together, I already had thought that it was like sort of Turok fighting, but with a female protagonist fighting on a world of The Last of Us, but without the zombies, but the way that nature has taken over, and it's, you've got the remnants of the old cities, and it's all sort of like got the ivy and all the nature's taken over it, and all the plants growing over all the old structures and the old cities, with mech dinosaurs. It's like awesome. But I was just thinking, as you described it, that it almost put me in mind of a Heavenly Sword world in a way, and like she's sort of like an Nariko, but kind of I kind of like her better. I thought she was instantly likable, and I liked the quips as she fought.
Yes.
Which a little bit like Uncharted does that very well with Nathan Drake and Sully. But yeah, she was sort of like the massive mech dinosaur sort of like saw that she was shooting at it and it wasn't happy, and she sort of like started running, and it did a massive missile at her, and she was like, whoa, someone's angry, and like sort of all that, and then she's like, I've got to get underneath it. So it's like, instead of popping up as a tooltip, it's being naturally scripted into the action, and it just makes it, again, that old word again, it just makes it more immersive.
Yeah, absolutely. It was quite interesting because at the end of the trailer, the Sony stage was incredible, and they had this big wraparound screen. And at the end of the trailer, the wraparound screen was just filled with the horizon landscape. And I thought that they were going to say, and this is available for Project Morpheus. Just the way that they presented it at the end, it just looked incredible. And I just thought, wow, if you imagine strapping on Morpheus and looking around with the VR tech and just looking around and seeing this landscape, it would just be amazing. It's quite interesting because I was listening to a podcast today about the Sony conference, and one of the guys on the podcast was saying that when they show you humankind or civilization before it crumbled, it kind of looked like a Killzone game, or the last Killzone game that was on PlayStation 4. And also, a couple of the robots have like orange eyes as well.
Oh, like, so saying, like the Hellgast.
Exactly. Is this this kind of the world that they have for Killzone, but just kind of moved on?
Yeah, 200 years after that cataclysmic war, that was what was left. So that's nice. It could sort of dip into that history.
What a fantastic way to tie their games together, I thought. I just thought that was a very astute opinion there, but it was just really interesting. I just thought that was quite an interesting point.
Yeah, definitely. That is really cool, and it'd be nice if they did that, because I also sort of think that there could be a link between Destiny and Halo universes, because they're Guardians in Destiny, and Halo 5 is called Guardians, even though they're both with different companies now. I like to think that maybe Destiny was either 1,000 years ago before Halo. Do you know what I mean? And there's some kind of link. And Dark Souls does it as well. There's speculation that Dark Souls 2, the place Lord ran, is either hundreds of years before or after the setting of Dark Souls 1, but it's never admitted, but there's just hints around and stuff. I really like that. Just little things that the devs put in there, like you say, with the orange eyes and things like that. And it's nice, and it's nice for everybody to discuss on the net and with each other.
Absolutely, it keeps people talking about that. But that's definitely one to watch, I think. And it was quite interesting.
Game. Yeah, I really like that. I mean,
going through the Sony conference, I just kept thinking, I'm going to be spending a lot of time on PS4 next year, obviously, not this year because they've got nothing, but next year I'm going to be spending a lot of time on my PS4. So up next we had Hitman. So Hitman's back, and he's called Hitman again. So there was no subtitle for this; it was just Hitman. And they were saying it's their most ambitious Hitman game ever. And they showed just a very short trailer of Agent 47, kind of running through a forest and taking someone out with a sniper. Yeah. So quite interesting. It's going to be multi-platform, so it's available on all platforms, but I think that the PlayStation gets some exclusive deal in the first year of launch. It's a bit like kind of the Call of Duty deal that Microsoft used to have, which was the first 6 side missions or first 6 DLC are going to be available exclusive for a year on one platform. And that's what's happening with Hitman.
Okay, I liked Hitman on Hitman 1 on PC. This was in the era when Nolf came out about the same time. I don't know if you remember that. No One Lives Forever. It was like a tongue-in-cheek 60s shooter. But anyway, back to Hitman. I loved it then because I'd never seen that done before. The way that you could choose the way to tackle your objective. So you could garrote the guy and then take his clothes and be the baker or whatever, and then walk in with like a tray of cakes and to get to your target and things like that.
Yes.
I thought it was really clever. But after that one game, I found all the others to be really poor. And I haven't had any interest in Hitman since. I was surprised at the hoo-ha for Hitman, really. I was like, Hitman, it's rubbish. It's had a rubbish film. It's got a rubbish rep. But, they didn't show any gameplay. I didn't know what it was at first because he was running with that hat on, wasn't he? So I couldn't tell it was Agent 47. But then I started to suspect. And I was like, oh, it's Hitman. That was my reaction. It was, it's Hitman. So you never know. Make it good, guys. Make it good, and they will come. But it's not got a good track record so far.
Absolutely. And then after that, we had a PlayStation exclusive, which is Street Fighter V. So they showed some Street Fighter V looking good. I must say, I do like the new Street Fighter engine, if you will.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So this is kind of this is another iteration of that. Looking fab.
Yeah, and it's surprising that PS4 have got it, just for them and PC, and it's not going to be on Xbox unless it's timed. But I think it's actually just exclusive to PS4 and PC. And PC, I've never really thought of it. I've always thought of fighting games like this, the home's on console, so really it's a PS4 thing. And Cammy and Birdie, new characters shown to be in Street Fighter 5. It doesn't look very different from Street Fighter 4 to me.
No, it's kind of one of those. I remember when they first announced this kind of new age Street Fighter, and they did this amazing trailer that was kind of, as each character moved, they kind of almost left an ink trail behind them.
Oh yeah.
And whenever I see Street Fighter now, I always pan back to that trailer, and I want that. I want my Street Fighter to look like that. And they do get kind of a swoosh every now and then, and you get a bit of that.
Yeah, if you do the focus button, if you focus your power, you can do it. But I mean, I used to love Street Fighter, and on the Super Nintendo, I was pretty damn good. But I was only with one character. I only used to play with Ryu. But how are you at it? I mean, I've dabbled with Street Fighter 4, but I get my ass kicked online. Do you play? Are your skills still polished, or have you lost them in the swirls of time?
No, I've lost them. I do always kind of put it down to the fact that I haven't got a joystick, that I'm using my joypad.
You haven't got a quick shot too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always I'm just kidding myself, but that's what I'm putting it down to, that I'm no longer good at, because I used to love kind of Capcom versus Marvel and all those games, so I used to really like it. And when the last Street Fighter came out, and I think there was a demo, or it was on Games for Gold or something like that, and I played it, and I think I got about 4 or 5 fighters in, and then I just got my butt handed to me, and it was so I was just like, maybe these aren't for me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm still good at Soul Calibur. I'm still
excellent.
loving kind of like Soul Calibur and Virtual Fighter and things like that, but for Street Fighter, I want to be good at those games, because they're quite fulfilling actually when you're good at them, or when you pull off like a good load of sort of combos and a good finish. They are quite fulfilling, but I'm just don't think I'm there anymore, and I haven't got the time to kind of
get good.
Get that skill back again as well.
Yeah, Soul Calibur is actually my favourite fighter of all time, and I got really good at it, because I used to worked at UbiSoft for a little while, and we didn't have much to do a lot of the time. We ended up playing Soul Calibur in the back quite a lot. Me and my mate, we got really good at it. It was just like counter. It was like the Matrix, ching, 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 and we got really awesome. And I went to play in the some competition in Cardiff, Soul Calibur Championships, and. Trouble was, I'd never been to a competition like that before, and I was so nervous. I was pretty rubbish, but I think I got to the quarterfinals. But I'm pretty handy with Killick. But the weird thing about Street Fighter is, I still sort of think to myself that I'm like really good. I think like I'm best at Street Fighter, but I'm not. I'm rubbish. But that old thing, because I was all right on the SNES, it's like still with me, even though it's completely, more refined and probably a completely different game now. I'm like you, Street Fighter 4. I couldn't get all the way through it. And anyway, the boss is cheap. The last boss is a cheap boss that just... But then again, I suppose if you get good, if I wasn't so rubbish, then I'd beat him. But yeah, I love the games. And I probably won't get Street Fighter because there's so many other games. I'd love a Soul Calibur. If a new Soul Calibur came out, though, I'd probably get that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I'm with you on that one. But or Virtual Fighter. I quite like Virtual Fighter.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Because they've kind of killed Dead or Alive, that gets lots of iterations, but that kind of stopped being good. Now, next up was Media Molecule. Now, I don't know about you, Darren. We haven't really spoke about this. We're kind of like trying to save it for this, but they brought out a brand new game. Now, I love Little Big Planet. I love Tearaway. Those two games, Media Molecule are an awesome developer. But this new game that they brought out scared the pants off me. It was freaky. It's called Dreams. Is it just Dreams, the game's title?
Yeah, it's just Dreams, I believe, and it's
It should be called Nightmares. It's horrible.
Yeah.
There's a goat playing a piano in a field, and these aren't my dreams, and they are scary.
Yeah, Salvador Dali's dreams, I think. So,
absolutely. What are they smoking in Media Molecule?
It's free and easy in Brighton, though. That's where they're based, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want them to just make Little Big Planet after Little Big Planet, but at the same time, I don't want them to make this.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is, and there was a polar bear with it, and then there was a robot, and then there was a zombie, and I'm just like, my dreams aren't like this, you know. They are just scary as hell, and I was just, it was very interesting to see. And the guy came out, and he was very Media Molecule, and I was thinking, we're getting something good. When someone from Media Molecule comes out, you think they're going to have something good because they're fantastic. They are fun personified. They're kind of almost Sony's Rare, and this was disturbing, and I was just there going, what? I think it was this time it was like 3:00 in the morning, and this is happening. You're like, am I actually asleep? And I'm having some weird E3 nightmare dream, and I think I was, but it was very spooky.
Yeah, it was strange. I mean, for me, the closest thing that I saw to Little Big Planet was Unravel, and I was saying, oh man, just keep the controls good for Unravel because I really like the look of it. But onto what we're talking about here with Media Molecule and Dreams. Yeah, it looked like you could create anything using the light sensor on your controller. But I was thinking, well, how's it tracking that? Because does that mean you're going to need the PS camera? Because I saw them, you remember they did that drawing, didn't they? They just sort of drew something on the screen, and they used the controller. They didn't use the stick; they used the whole controller in their hand, and it was like they were using the light as a guide. And there's no way for the controller to sense that apart from with its gyroscopes, accelerometer stuff. And if it can't track the sensor because you need a camera for that, and mine can't anyway because it's behind me. So I don't know how that would work. So does that mean you're going to have to spend a little bit extra to be able to create, or maybe that's just an option and you can do it with the sticks? But it looks like you can just create 3D objects. They said really easily. And then, I don't know, make them work. But is it the characters that you create or objects and things that you create will work in context? Like if you create a man and a piano, that it's already in the code that a piano does this and the man will be able to do it? Because that would be some pretty complex stuff to be able to do what they were showing. And they were so diverse as well, maybe the tools apply to everything, and I'm sure they do, and it's just different sort of paint brushes, so you got that like waxy effect, like a ball of wax or whatever or clay that they were doing for the first bit with the man on the piano and that, and then the polar bear was more of a sort of airbrushy thing, wasn't it? And I thought that was quite beautiful, and I was thinking, well, that's really good, but I don't know what that is in gaming terms. It just looks really nice, and I'm happy to watch this. And then they showed the sort of science fiction sort of shooty thing, and I thought, wow, it reminded me of Project Spark in a way.
Absolutely. It's definitely kind of a build your own world, but it just the way that they pitched it was just incredibly. I don't know who this is pitched at. I don't know who is going to be playing this game.
I don't know. I think all that's going to happen with this game, it's going to sit in the tape gallery as a curiosity. I don't know. They need to elaborate. It's very strange because he started it off by saying, whenever we show this, we get like 1,000 questions of what is this, and then he proceeded not to explain what it is.
No, absolutely. I think they're kind of. I think it was one big tease for gameplay reveal at Gamescom or Paris Game Show later on in the year, I think.
Yeah, well, maybe the next tease try and get us interested, because it didn't. There's teases, isn't there? And there's teases, and that one. It's sort of, if that never appeared again, I wouldn't be saying, hey, Anthony, mate, let's talk about Dreams. What happened to that?
You remember in 2015 there was that game. Where is it 10 years later? I don't care where that is.
Maybe we'll be surprised and it'll be some awesome thing. But it was very strange, and I'm sure it didn't help you. Grasping on for consciousness in the middle of the night.
Absolutely. This time it was 3 a.m. I'd been up the previous night since like 3 a.m. that night. This was just like, this isn't why I'm doing this. But if it's good, I'll happily eat my little Sackboy figure. And so the jury's out, but I just think this isn't for me. But then on to something that is definitely for me, and that was Hello Games, and it was Outcome Sean Murray. With a bit of a taste of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, a smidgen of No Man's Sky gameplay, which up to now hitherto has not been seen. It's still, every time I talk about this, I'm always thinking about Joe Danger and the difference in scale between the two games.
But what I loved about this was he just jumped into his ship, didn't he? He jumped into the ship and he was like, I'm going to show you what a bit of a space battles looks like. So he kind of jumped into that ship, pulled off away from the launch pad, and then we then started to kind of see exactly kind of what it would be like. And the great thing I loved about it was that he was saying that there's a battle happening there, and I can do two things now. We could just warp away and go somewhere else, or we can engage. And I'd like to know what I would like from No Man's Sky is I'd like to see a big chunk of gameplay. I'd like to see some kind of later on, not during the conference, but later on, I'd like to see kind of Sean Murray sit down for a good hour and show us exactly what moment to moment looks like with this game, because it's just fantastic. And then the great thing that I loved was he was like engaged a little bit in the battle, which looked fantastic. You were talking earlier about Elite Dangerous, and this kind of scratches that itch for me, and it looked really good. And then he was like, right, he said, each one of these dots, and then he showed a map, and he was like, each one of these dots, and there was about 10 dots, he said, is a sun. And then each sun has orbital planets. So you're already thinking, okay, there's 10 suns there. Each one maybe has like 10 planets. And then he started to pull out. And there was even more of these dots and even more suns and then more suns. And you just think, this game is ginormous. And then he then picked one at random. I don't know how staged or scripted this was, but he seemed to pick one at random. And he went to one. And actually, I don't think it was staged or scripted, because he went to one and he was kind of like, oh, this is what it looks like. The one I had earlier looked better, and then he was showing this to the world, and he was like genuinely kind of interested about the land. And then he went there, and then there was a point of interest which kind of give you a hint of the gameplay. There was a point of interest where he could then go, and then he could then discover this new world. And for me, that's quite mind-blowing, that I could potentially discover a world that no one else has ever discovered in this game. And then when anybody else stumbles across the world, it just says, here's this planet, and it was discovered by, Chessman UK or PS-Chessman, as I am on PlayStation. So it would be like, it's discovered by that. And that, for me, that blows my mind.
Yeah, it's so amazing. This must be some genius procedural generation that they've done, because, for instance, Elite was written on, I don't know, less than 64K, which is less than most emails, and that had, vast universes, and that was way back when, in 1984, I think it was. And now we've got this, which is sort of a spiritual successor, really, I think. And yeah, when he wound that star map back and back and back and back, and every point of light on that chart was a sun of a solar system with planets that you could visit. I was just amazed. I'd already read that, as they've worked it out, that the amount of hours that it would take to visit every planet in No Man's Sky is longer than recorded history. So, there's not much chance you're going to be able to visit every planet, and there's every chance that we're all going to get the opportunity to discover a planet and make it our own. And it'll probably be quite hard to find the E3 planet that he landed on. But yeah, I think it was legitimate, and the way that he seemed a bit nervous when he said he goes, this might be a bit stupid, but I'm going to pick a planet at random and see what it's like. And he went on it. And he said, I've seen better, I've seen worse. And he said that there was a beacon there, wasn't there? And he said he's put a beacon close on every planet for the purposes of demonstration. And then he did a scan, and then the Sentinel appeared. So I think he said that's it. He said this is something I can show you, because there was no life around. And he said every single planet was going to be destructible. You can do what you want. And he started shooting away at some of the terrain, which broke off as you'd expect. And then he was like, oh dear, and these are the Sentinels that are guarding the planet. I sort of thought, but you said there was no life. But anyway, so the Sentinels came, and they were sort of like mechs, a bit like scout walkers, if you like, that were coming after him. And he backed away, and he went, oh, some sea. And before you know it, was in the sea. And he's like, oh, some fish. And then it scanned the fish, and it gave a species name. And then he gathered some information, and he was like, oh, right, so now I can show you this. And he went to the beacon, and that is the beacon that he uploaded his discoveries, and that seemed to turn into credits, which maybe is the game currency. And it zoomed out from the planet and then back in, and I was just like, wow, it looks amazing. But like you say, it's a very tiny glimpse of a very massive game. There's been a few comments about Elite Dangerous, and I mean, I can understand this because of me. As I say before, I had a great time playing it, but I was reading a book for a lot of it because it's kind of a simulator. There's this time where you're flying from landing in orbit in a system to getting to somewhere. You're not straight there because it's trying to emulate or simulate what it would be like. And Elite Dangerous is the same. There's a lot of waiting and flying from A to B with not much going on. And I think the No Man's Sky will sort of have an element of that. It can't all be space battles in such a vast universe, but I think it's going to, and because it's so vast, even with everybody playing it, it's still going to be places that are sparsely populated, I imagine. But it's going to be down to choice, I think. I mean, he said it before, and he said it at the conference. He said there's going to be space combat, there's going to be trading and exploration, all in there, and probably some other things too that we don't know about. And he said that he said I'll give you a release soon, I promise. So they're just holding that back, I think, and that should come very soon. I'm expecting, hopefully, that would come before Christmas for the release. So yeah, basically looks amazing. And don't you find everything is so fluid and silky smooth in it as well? I find the movement is just so smooth and like oil just sort of running along. It's just when the ships are flying and those trails behind them. Look at me. Obviously, I'm a fan of trails behind stuff, but it's so smooth and just seems to be just, I don't know, like a knife going through butter. It's just beautiful.
It was very nice, when you see him kind of land and then get out. It was I loved the way that the ship landed. So he was like flying around. It was like, oh, let's land here. He landed the ship, and that was quite smooth. That was really nice. And he jumped out. Maybe that's something that Destiny could learn from as well. Instead of just kind of going into an orbit and then appearing on the ship, it was really nice. You kind of broke orbit, landed, had a wander around, like you say, destructible environments. It looked fantastic. Yeah. And again, it's kind of another one, the same as Division. This is definitely a very high on my list. So take your time. Just give us a game that is going to be worthy of all of this love and passion that they've obviously put into it, and people are already feeling for it.
Yeah, and it's a small team. They're working. They're working hard on it, and I just hope, because there's a frenzy of expectation on this game now, because it's like nobody knew, but everybody wanted it, and like there's a massive expectation, and I just hope that the finished product is what we all want, and doesn't end up being, not quite what we expected. But we'll see. I mean, this Sean guy, I've had a few interviews with him, and he knows what he's doing. He comes across that he knows what we want, and he's trying to deliver that. And they're gamers, so they know what they know what they're doing. I've got my fingers crossed it's not going to let us down. But yeah, it was fantastic to see some playable, some live play. That was really good. They really, Sony pulled it out the hat with that, definitely.
No, absolutely. And then they continued the momentum going. We had Destiny, the Taken King DLC, so that was released for 15th of September. So that had a release date. That's the same day as Forza 6. So that was coming out. So that was really good. It looked good. They showed a brief trailer. Same kind of Destiny stuff. Quite interesting that's actually being bundled as a separate bundle as well. So it's being bundled as a disc as well as download, so which was an interesting one. And then after that, a game that I've been following for an awful long time, which was Firewatch. Now, Firewatch was it's Ollie Moss. Ollie Moss is an artist who, if you've ever seen any of the new kind of Star Wars posters, he did a lot of very stylized stuff. He's done stuff for Studio Ghibli, and he is just incredible. And he has put his art, he's put his artistry, his artist impression into a game. It's quite interesting because I follow him on Twitter, so you kind of see him building a PC, and he's always said, I've always wanted to make a game. And then 6 months later, he's like, I'm making a game, and this is what it is. It's Camp Santo's Firewatch. Looks incredible. You're kind of roaming around. You're a warden of a park. Looks amazing, and lots of oranges, lots of nice sunsets, and this is definitely something that I want to get lost in as well when it comes out.
Yeah, it looks like you're one of a few lookouts for the park, and you're in contact with like HQ, and from what you could see on the game reel, somebody's cut all the comms. So you're stranded, really, apart from the walkie-talkie, and 2 girls had gone missing. And I tell you, the picture they painted within a very short period, it must have been like 2.5, 3 minute demo. I was instantly invested, and I was thinking, wow, this is a game that I want. And I loved this. The acting was great, the art style was great as well. And I'm sold on Firewatch. It's a game that I want to play. I want to find out what happens. Absolutely brilliant. It looks like a great story.
It really does. It looks like a really kind of narrative-driven story that you could just kind of get lost in kind of 6 or 7 hours worth of gameplay. It's definitely something, and I think that's exclusive to Sony, and that's something that is coming out this year, I believe.
Yeah. Where's my notes? Did you get the date for it? I don't think I got the date for that one.
No, I don't think I got a date, but like I say, following Ollie Moss on Twitter, I'm sure that he said it was going to be out later this year. So that was an interesting one. And then next up from Sony was another announcement that's kind of up there with Last Guardian. And it was just amazing. This was another one that I was just, again, here's kind of probably about 3:30. It's you're just thinking that this is probably it now. But then they hit you with a ginormous double punch of nostalgia.
Yeah, I couldn't believe. I mean, I teared up for this. I watched it about 5 a.m. when I woke up and found the feed. But yeah, they started the trailer rolling, and a feather floated down, which is always a sign of something amazing is going to happen. And yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake at last, not the stupid bloody port of the PC version that Square Enix mentioned last year, but an actual fully blown remake for next gen. Oh my goodness me, I could not believe it, and I still can't. This for me is the best announcement. It's better than Last Guardian. It's been longer awaited. It's Final Fantasy. It's the first RPG I ever played. I love it so much. It was a new gaming experience for me when I played it, and it's a nostalgic thing, and I'm so much getting it. I just wish we had a release date, but again, let's not rush. But
well, this is going to be 2016, isn't it? What they were saying, and it's quite interesting because they did say that it's coming first to PlayStation 4, so that means it's coming to Xbox One, PC as well, which is very interesting. I obviously what they showed was a lot of it was CGI, had me excited, jumping up, even though obviously everyone else in the house was asleep, so I was being silently whooping, maybe just on Twitter, and I was, and that was quite interesting as well. The moment everybody who was watching on Twitter, moment they realised what this was, it just blew up. It was just, people were like, I can't believe they're doing this. Now, obviously, even with the original Final Fantasy VII, the CGI was amazing, and then it cut to people with squares for hands. So I'm hoping that we won't have something like that. I'm hoping that they do it justice, and I'm sure they will. I don't think they tease something like this for this long and not do it justice. Yeah. But
Mate,
I just couldn't believe that they actually they announced it. So we haven't really got any kind of firm information about it, other than showing showing the main characters. Not really kind of showing their face, but they were just more showing the kind of backs and side profiles of them. But they teased it, and they teased it well.
It was all you needed. I remember I was watching it. I mean, I was in the same position as you. My wife was asleep next to me, so I couldn't really scream or shout out or anything. But I was like, oh wow! I was like, oh my goodness me, that's Midgar. I'm sure that's Midgar. And then it was sort of, getting more and more information as it played, and then all of a sudden that music kind of went da, 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 and I was just like, oh wow, I can't believe it. And then it just went, it showed the comet, and I was like, mate, I can't even express it, I can't articulate it. I was on cloud nine, absolute cloud nine. I cannot wait. And I'm hoping, my expectation really is that the gameplay, characters and what have you, I'm expecting graphics, maybe not quite, but reminiscent of Advent Children.
Right. Yeah, that would be a nice level, wouldn't it? I think that would work, and it would probably lend itself quite well to the gameplay.
Yeah, and they say it's not just going to be a mirror of Final Fantasy VII. There's going to be some more story in there, some more bits added. So it's going to be, there's going to be more gaming there, and I can't wait. I cannot wait to play it, and I'm going to play it. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to enjoy it, and it's going to be great. And I'm going to make my wife sit through it, and she can understand why I love Melody. Oh, not Melody. I mean Aries Gainsborough so much. I called her Melody in my game. The flower seller.
Awesome. I mean, that was just absolutely, and Sony didn't stop with the fan service. It was almost like they kind of sat round last year and said, okay, we've one upped Microsoft. How can we give the gamers what they want? What do they want? And then they picked off the three big things that people want. We've already got Final Fantasy VII in a proper remake, check. Last Guardian's coming out, check. The last one, the Trinity, if you will, is the resurrection of Shenmue. And they brought out legendary developer Yu Suzuki, who is just an amazing character and just fantastic. They brought out that, and they announced not only is he going to resurrect the Shenmue franchise, but PlayStation 4 is also going to be supporting Kickstarter as well, so we can get some Kickstarter games will be appearing on PlayStation 4. And with this, they announced the campaign to kickstart Shenmue 3, and they kind of went live on the Kickstarter. They did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown, and off it went. Now, the interesting thing about this, not only is I just have a big love affair with Shenmue, but they needed, Yu Suzuki said he needed $2 million US dollars to make this. So you've got 32 days, I think, or a month anyway, in Kickstarter. I've just taken a look just now. They're up to 3 million already. They've got 30 days to go, and I haven't even backed it yet because I haven't had time. So they're going to get my money soon.
Yeah.
But this is just fantastic. So they've, looking at the tiers that they've got for Shenmue, there is one where if they get to 3 million, which they've got to now, they've only just got to 3 million. I think is if they got to 2.5 million, the kicker for that would be a cinematic retelling of Shenmue 1 and 2. So that's quite good. So they're not kind of remaking Shenmue 1 and 2. They're just going to show us in a cinematic short. So that's reached. So that's going to be in the game. The next one is if they get to 3.2 million, there's going to be a rapport system, and then 3.5 million is a skill tree system, and then there's going to be some more mini games if they get to 4 million. I think they're going to have to start thinking up new stretch goals, because I think with 30 days to go and there's 3 million already in their bank account, I think they need to think up some new stretch goals quite quickly, because they've got 38,982 backers at the moment, and like I say, they'll have 2 more with us too, and I just think this is going to be incredible. I do want that cinematic retelling. I could even go nerdy and get my Dreamcast out and play the 1 and 2 again, because this is a game I don't know why, but when this came out, I was immersed in this game, and it was just absolutely fantastic. So to see that come out, and similar to you kind of a leaf falls, and I was just like, no, they're not going to do this as well as doing those other two. They couldn't do that. This was pure fan fiction. This was kind of, if you had you and I sitting around the day before this and going, what would you like to see from a Sony conference? It would have been all of this, and they were satisfying us left, right and centre. I think I put on Twitter, I was like, all I need now is Prince to come out and say that he's going to be in Rock Band 4, and I knew I was dreaming, because this was just one of those conferences where they were just, you want it, you got it, you want it, you got it, but it's almost like Sony saying, we haven't got much for 2015, but oh boy, are we going to blow your socks away for 2016. And it was just, I can't wait. I want to know more about this. Like I say, I'm going to back it on Kickstarter. And let's see. I can't believe we're going to live in a world that's got Final Fantasy Remake, we've got Shenmue, and that big bird dog is coming out. Everything
that gamers wanted. I mean, Microsoft, it seems, they're looking forward with all their new RPs and games, and they really lived up to that. But Sony's bringing out the legends. It's bringing out the legends that there's been clamour for years. I called Shenmue 3, I believe, but it was a whimsical thing. I never in my wildest dreams.
That's what I mean. It's just like fan fiction, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to call that, but it's just like me saying that there was going to be a new Viva Pinata.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a joke. It was because it was so like wanted, but never. You know, you'd never think it would happen. But Shenmue, when it came out, it was the most expensive game ever made. It cost about $20 million, I believe. So it's interesting that the Kickstarter target is quite low, but Sony are going to back it afterwards anyway. So they're going to get some more money from Sony, apparently. Sony have come out and said that. But I don't know what the equivalent with the way that tech has improved and stuff compared to when Shenmue came out on the Dreamcast with the budget of $20 million. I don't know where that sweet spot would lie, you know, to deliver an experience that would fit the expectation.
I don't think it's anywhere near 20 million these days, but I think, you know, they might even be using some of the assets that they had from Shenmue and Shenmue 2, but just kind of, you know, redoing them.
Don't say that.
Well, it has to, you know, it has to have a certain look and feel about it, because I'm one of these, you know, I am a graphics guy. You know, I like things to look, you know, Star Wars Battlefront, all of those games that we've been talking about today, they're all what I want to see, but Shenmue has to have a certain look and feel about it to me. I'm going to be kind of, you know, but I want to know if there is a level in Kickstarter that I can back and I get a free forklift truck.
Oh, wow. Well, you can get one of the toy capsules. I think there is a forklift truck toy capsule, but I think that's so cool. To get a toy capsule, I think it's $120. But if you go up to about 500, you get the box set of 4, so you'd guarantee to get the truck. Then it's random what you get at 120. But I quite like the $10,000 one, where you could get Dio's or Ryo's jacket, the leather jacket that Yu Suzuki wore when he was promoting Shenmue, and you got that. But that had already gone. So, you know, I couldn't spend my $10,000 on it. But and the other big Kickstarter backing option was another $10,000 one, and that was to have lunch or dinner with Yu Suzuki in Japan and sort of mull over the scripts. He was going to bring out the scripts for Shenmue 1 and 2 for you to look at. Then in small print it said scripts are in Japanese. So, but wow, you get dinner with you and a friend and Yu Suzuki and a few of the developers to have a chat about the progress of Shenmue 3 and Shenmue past and present, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, I couldn't believe that announcement. It was like really cool. And yeah, the crowd went wild, didn't they? It was like how much more can you bring us? You know, it's like you say, the holy trinity of gaming with Last Guardian, Final Fantasy VII, then Shenmue 3. It's like bang, bang, bang. It's like, you know, they weren't pulling any punches, and I think it's a golden age.
It's quite interesting that you say, like, you know, that Yu Suzuki has scripts from Shenmue 1 and 2, and in the Nintendo briefing you saw Miyamoto having sketches from the original Mario. You know, he had level sketches, and I do think that those things should now be in museums. I think we're now getting to the artwork and to mementos of a generation, of a thing that's happened, that should be in museums. You know, I know there's a museum that is around the kind of Birmingham way that has, at the moment, they have a children's television exhibit, and that looks fantastic. You know, there's a lot of time and effort and love that has gone into this exhibition, and I wish I could remember it right now off the top of my head. And I know that there's a few people who are probably listening, they're probably going to hit me for not remembering this one, they have all of, like, they have, you know, Humpty Dumpty, they have, you know, the Flower Pot Men, they have all of these things, the Teletubbies, and it just looks incredible. And I just think we should be doing this. I know the Smithsonian had an exhibit on gaming, but I think we should be grabbing these from Miyamoto. They shouldn't just be kind of casually strewn around the way that they have been. You know, someone should take them in white gloves and take them away from him.
And seal them and keep them accordingly in the proper place. I mean, because there's been a few events in I forget which London museum it was, but there's like a video games exhibition that I've seen. I never went to it, but it was I think it was at one of the museums in London, and it basically just had, you know, video games as a chronological list, all side by side from sort of the first one coming up to present day. Sounded great. I never got to go at the time, but that sort of thing wants a permanent exhibit somewhere, and it'd be great, because retro is having a resurgence anyway. You know, retro games and things, you know, there's a big interest in that, And as the hobby in the industry gets bigger and bigger, it's worth more than the movie and the music industry put together. All the kids pretty much are banging to their games and technology these days. So I quite agree. This stuff needs a place for preservation and adoration.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It really is that. It really needs somebody or an organisation to start looking at this and start to really kind of document kind of what's happening right now. Yeah. So up next, after that kind of, if we couldn't have any more, we had a little bit more Star Wars. So the Sony came out we had the Star Wars music, but they teased us first with Disney Infinity, and they've locked in some exclusives for Disney Infinity. They have Boba Fett before anybody else has Boba Fett within Disney Infinity, so that hurt me a little bit because I've already kind of started collecting Disney Infinity over on the Xbox, so I'm not going to be able to get Boba Fett for a while, or if ever. So that was an interesting one.
Yeah, that was. I was like, oh, what's this? I'll look at my Twitter feed. It was my reaction to that. Really, I just sort of wasn't bothered. But I did think it was interesting when they mentioned the Morpheus section. And they said that basically they'd been thinking about Morpheus and looking into it and stuff, and they thought that they didn't want to lose out the fact that you could be playing together, on the couch, and they didn't want Morpheus to take away from that. And I'd been worrying is probably a strong word, but I've been concerned about that because I'm a bit of a social player. I like to be in the room taking it in turns or playing a game together, with other people watching or me watching them and chatting away and having everybody share the experience. And one of my concerns about Morpheus was that it would take that away. But not only with Morpheus is it going to display what you're playing on the screen, but they announced that you're going to be able to have a multi-Morpheus setup with, as you would with your DualShocks, up to 4 people all plugged into the same PlayStation in the same room playing in the same virtual environment. And I thought that was a big announcement. I thought that's fantastic. All you need is the money to buy yourself 2, 3 or 4 Morpheus head-mounted devices. But, these things are going to get cheaper over time, and the experiences are going to get better. And I thought that was a biggie, and I'm really happy about that.
They were very light on Morpheus, though. I thought I didn't think they were. I thought they would be coming out and they would be hitting us left, right, and centre with Morpheus. But I thought they were very. It was almost like we're not quite ready to show you this yet. There was no kind of real big games that were mentioned with it, and they definitely didn't kind of announce any release dates or anything like that.
No, they didn't, and the best you got was like just snippets within the montages that weren't just Morpheus. They were just in there, weren't they? They showed a little bit, and then they'd sort of open that screen that you mentioned before where it went right round, and you could sort of say, yeah, that's a Morpheus game. And he just said a little bit about, we've been concentrating on this kind of game, but we've been looking at other ways to use it, and that was it. So it was only a little bit. I'm thinking that I don't know how early in development it is, but they've got to save some stuff for like Tokyo Game Show and things, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's kind of what they're doing. But it's definitely, I don't think Morpheus is coming out this year. It's definitely going to be maybe the 2016, which will be the year of the PlayStation, maybe. But it's quite interesting because if you think about it, come 2017, in your living room, you're going to potentially, if you like us and we like all of the tech, you're going to be sitting there surrounded by HoloLens, Oculus, Morpheus. You'll have so many VR and AV devices kind of just scattered around your living room. It's going to be quite an interesting landscape.
It certainly is, but I'm even more interested in when this technology becomes very much part of your normal life, and it's going to start to get smaller. Smaller to the extent that they're on glasses. You're sort of wearing them on normal spectacles, and then you could maybe just superimpose those lenses over because the technology is sort of built into the glass, like with graphene or something, and then maybe even onto like contact lenses and things. But I don't know whether we'll be alive then. But the rate technology improves, and maybe we'll see something like that. But in the meantime, I'm more than happy to live in a world with my Morpheus, my HTC Vive, and my Oculus Rift HMD strewn around. Wow, where do you want to go today? It means something whole new with these new devices.
Indeed. And then we had a bit of Call of Duty in the Sony conference. So they showed us the first time on PS4 first time that they've showed Call of Duty at a PS4
Yeah, this
event.
was Black Ops
so that
3,
was quite
wasn't
an interesting one. It was for Black Ops 3, so they just kind of gave us a bit of a first footage of and the interesting thing for Black Ops 3 is that they're doing co-op in the campaign. So they did co-op in the campaign in Call of Duty World at War, but they haven't done it for any of the other ones, and they've now added 4-player co-op again.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Black Ops
I couldn't
3.
get myself excited about it because I just a bit. I can tell they're trying as well, so I feel a bit bad. But they've got enough money; they're okay. They don't need my sympathy really. But
well, absolutely. I mean, when you've got stuff like Star Wars Battlefront, kind of taking your first-person shooter interest, you don't.
And Halo 5 as well. You got Halo 5 and Star Wars Battlefront, which are no-brainers. Everyone's going to get them, and it's sort of like because. They're like things that don't come along very often. You sort of with your Call of Duty, you're like, well, if I miss one, it doesn't matter. I'll get the next one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's similar to Assassin's Creed. If I don't get this one, maybe they'll get next year's. So that was quite good. And then they did show a bit more of Star Wars Battlefront. They showed a different mission to the EA conference that we saw earlier in the day. And this time they were showing it on Tatooine, which was a very kind of battlefield kind of control points while you're defending control points. Admiral Akbar was there. It looked very good. And again, we were talking about it earlier, but very excited about this. I can't wait to kind of get into that. So
yeah, basically just unbelievably looks amazing. Standing ovation for Star Wars Battlefront.
Absolutely.
Every time I say it. And the musical score on it, it's just Star Wars brought together for you. It's just, you can't really say anything else. We've praised it enough. It's just amazing. Day one purchase.
Absolutely. And then the Sony conference finished with an extended live demo of Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, a demo that had to be restarted. I thought I'd fell asleep and kind of woke up again because they started playing, then they obviously had a bit of a hitch, and then they had to restart the demo again, and they restarted, and off they went. And to be quite honest, I was almost looking away at this point because I want to play this game. As I said before, I haven't finished any of the others, so I'm going to invest in the HD collection when that comes out, and I don't want this to be spoiled. So it was one of those games where I was like, you've got my money. You've got my money. I don't want to see any more of this. And I know they had to show it, and it looked fantastic. There's lots of, I heard lots of one-liners, and it looked amazing. And it looked like there's different ways to attack puzzles, and it's very much kind of the Uncharted that everybody loves. But for me, I was like, yep, I've seen enough now. I'm just show me again when it comes out next year.
Yeah, the scripted set piece that they showed is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I was watching it and I was like, I'm a great fan of these games. I played them all because I used to play my exclusives on the PS3 and I was main gamer on 360. But oh my goodness, I love Uncharted, and Nathan Drake and his mate Sully were back in action with just with all guns blazing, literally. And yeah, they basically had to get from one end of a really densely populated market town to a tower at the other end of the town, negotiating sort of a almost Italian job-esque twisting roads on the way. There was people. First, it started out with a gunfight with soldiers attacking them. Then they got away from them, jump in a jeep, and a big armoured truck with a big old gun starts chasing them, and they just had to bomb it down these twisty, windy, densely populated streets to get to this tower through an open market. Went off the road, started going down steps through an open market, people diving out the way. Sully's like, don't run anyone over, Drake. Drake's like, do you want to drive? Absolutely fantastic. And I watched that, and my jaw was still on the floor from the other announcements. But yeah, that was the icing on the cake. Looks amazing. Pity it's been delayed, but if it needs to be delayed, it needs to be delayed, and it will be fantastic when it comes out. I was sort of envious of you because you could get to play them all if you have the time from 1 to 4.
Oh, absolutely, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the HD collection, and I am going to sit down, and each one of them is just it's a 7 hours max. I would think each one of those campaigns. So it's almost a Call of Duty-esque kind of play it. I might even do what you do with Halo, kind of drop it down a little bit bit easier and just enjoy the spectacle of these games and just kind of really just kind of see what all the I mean, I already know what the fuss is about because I have played each one of them a little bit, but I've just never completed them. So I really want to take it through, and so it'll be interesting.
Just take it too easy and just enjoy the spectacle and soak it in, because that's what those games are about, really. You know, we don't need to worry about the challenge or anything. It's about the immersion and being part of that story, and it's good. You know, it's good. I can't recommend it enough. So yeah, please play it, because I'd love to chat to you about it. Though I've probably forgotten a lot of what I played, but yeah, it really. I've got high expectation for that, and because Naughty Dog have got this reputation now, and that really it hit expectation. It was amazing. I thought when I saw the Tomb Raider clip, I was like, "Crikey, this is so exciting! They've done this so well." Uncharted is going to have its work cut out, but you know, Uncharted was great too. And I'm not saying it was better or anything. It was just two great games. I love that sort of game, and I'm glad that we've got that type of game. So yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, what a way to finish. So that was Sony. Yeah,
absolutely. That was it. That was kind of Sony kind of wrapping up and and dropping the mic as they left the stage, because it was a fantastic conference by them. I think, you know, they did really well. They showed us a lot of games. Obviously, you know, the kind of bitter pill for all of that is that we're not getting any of them this year. But you know, next year is going to be amazing, and you know, Xbox has us covered for those people that are already on multiple platforms. So that was fantastic. Now, so next up, we have Nintendo. But before we go to Nintendo, the art gallery, what I was trying to think of is the Herbert Art Gallery Museum in Coventry, and they have a story of children's television from 1946 to today. I knew I had to get that one out. That was annoying me that I couldn't remember, and that's just fantastic. And that's what we should be doing with gaming. Someone should be thinking about that. Maybe it would be. We'll
stick a link in of that at the bottom of the podcast.
Absolutely,
so people can have a look.
Maybe we'll start a Lost Sparks museum of gaming history.
Yeah.
So on to Nintendo. Now, I don't know about you, Darren, but I did watch it live. The next day, so this was on the Tuesday. It was about 5:00, I think, UK time. I did watch it live. Now, all I can say, and it's really funny because I was taking notes throughout all of the conferences, and the only notes I've got from the Nintendo one is Yoshi's Woolly World, yay. It had Nintendo charm, full of Nintendo charm, but it just lacked substance. There was nothing in there. I felt dead inside after watching it, because apart from Yoshi's Woolly World, which I can't wait for, there was nothing for me in that Nintendo conference. But I get that's kind of I guess my summation of it. But it started off as a great event. It started off. I was quite excited because we had Nintendo Muppets. So we had Reggie, Miyamoto, and Iwata as Muppets, as puppets that were kind of getting ready, and then they just kind of Muppetly strolled down a corridor into a lift, and then they slowly kind of morphed into Star Fox characters, which was, at that point I was like, oh, this is going to be special. You know, there's a lot of production value into this. This is going to be something very interesting. And they then kind of went from there. We then had a bit of a developer story, which took us into kind of the making of Star Fox. And I found that incredibly interesting, about an area where Miyamoto used to go. And this is his kind of inspiration for Star Fox, for those bridges that we used to kind of fly under and fly around in Star Fox. So I thought it was a really nice touch, a really personal touch that Nintendo were bringing in. And then they went into Star Fox Zero, which it's now being called. So we then, so after we had that, we then went into a demo of Star Fox 3, or Star Fox Zero, I believe they're calling it, which just showed us some first-person targeting with the Wii U gamepad, so you can see the cockpit view from the Wii U gamepad, and obviously the TV is showing the kind of almost third-person view. Your Star Fox ship can also transform slightly, and then there was a bit of kind of ground level. It looked okay, but again, it wasn't. It didn't amaze me. You know, we just spent a couple of days seeing all of these amazing, incredible looking games, and then we switched to kind of Nintendo, who quite lately have been making some fantastic looking games with Mario Kart, and I wasn't blown away by Star Fox. I don't know about you, Darren.
No, there was like there was no lore, was there? I mean, it was great, as you say. It was very charming. The puppets were fantastic. I was like really laughing at the start. I was thinking, this is great. They show their humanity. They show the human side. They're not afraid to be a bit self-deprecating and show that they're up for a laugh. And it was fantastic that they could make the puppets make a fool of themselves without actually having to make fools of themselves, if you know what I mean. So I just thought it was really good, and I was expecting more of the same, that we'd had from the other guys. But unfortunately, I'm right with you. There was nothing there, really. There was a load of 3DS stuff, which I discard it straight away. I'm not interested in handhelds anymore. I want the proper games. I want the AAAs. I want to see, I want to see them hit it out of the park with some amazing new Zelda or something, which we know is coming, but they didn't talk about. So yeah, the puppets changed into Star Fox characters, which was quite funny. But as for actual content, there wasn't anything there. Yeah, Star Fox Zero was announced. It reminded me so much of the N64 version. It took away any sort of awe that I might have had. I was just like, is that it? Is that all the best that they can do with redoing Star Fox? I love Star Fox as well. It's like a game that it's got a big place in my heart. I really like it. But I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. Well, I suppose it'll do to show my son Star Fox without getting my N64 out. It was about as much as I thought. I can show him what the old game was like. But I didn't really consider it to be like a new game. Just thought, Star Fox. And if I even get it, which I won't, because it didn't look good enough, and I love Star Fox. Yoshi's Woolly World, yeah, all right, that stole the show. That's fantastic. 3DS stuff, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, we've got this Zelda Triforce Heroes game, Yokai Watch, and Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. So they've got all these games coming out on 3DS, because I know the handhelds are massive and they make them a lot of money, and they're really big in Japan. I think they're overtaking, kind of the main console use in Japan. But for me, it's just like, yeah, well, I'm not interested in any of that. Interesting about the amiibos. So they had Reggie chatting to a guy who worked on Skylanders about putting Bowser and Donkey Kong amiibos into Skylanders and actually having them with a little switch on the bottom that you could switch over to be either amiibo or Skylander, and they could be used in both games. And I thought that was pretty cool. But then I was getting annoyed about their engineered scarcity of amiibos. So that was a double-edged sword. And then they harped on about Mario Maker towards the end. It's Mario's 30th anniversary this year. And then Miyamoto got out his sketches of the original Mario levels on graph paper and said, this is how we used to have to do it. And I thought that was quite interesting. And I thought it was charming and interesting, and they seemed so nice and sweet and stuff. And that was great to see that human side of the guys. But ultimately, we want games, and there wasn't any. So, let's wait until they're announcing the NX, and then hopefully this time they're going to deliver some top quality content. But it's kind of a hiatus for Nintendo this year, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, Nintendo weren't at the show. They've chosen to do these digital events anyway, and I kind of think that they should have maybe skipped it. They could have given a lot of those out as just press releases, or just had a bit of a section in the show, because they're just. It was nothing. There was nothing for me. I was genuinely disappointed by that event. And the interesting thing was, throughout all of the previous conferences, even the Bethesda one, the reaction on social network was just amazing. People were following it, and then it got to the Nintendo one, and there was a couple of tweets from me and a couple of guys, and we were all saying, "Oh, here we go, Nintendo Muppets! Oh, I want one of those," and then it just died off. Because everyone was like, yeah, okay. There was just nothing there. Yeah. And I was genuinely disappointed. It was genuinely just kind of, Mario Maker, that's not for me. It's, I'm sure my nephews might love it, and make kind of levels and the kids are gonna absolutely love it. But I think for a 30th anniversary of Mario, there's a lot more they could do, than this, It could be fantastic. I'm sure they love it. I'm sure it's going to have a huge following, and it's going to be like when Little Big Planet first started and everybody was making those worlds and offering them up. So I think it's great having the amiibo in Skylanders. That's really good. That's an interesting thing. It was quite interesting to hear that guy say how almost afraid of Nintendo he was when he started, or respectful of Nintendo. And they were like, just go crazy, do whatever you want, create whatever you want. And I thought that was really lovely to see. And I'd love to see the Mario amiibo appear in Disney Infinity. That would be incredible. Have Mario jumping around in Star Wars. Yes, please. And that's my problem, you see, because my problem is I love Nintendo. I've always lived in Nintendo. There are some publishers out there, some companies out there that I've been playing them all my life. So you have this fondness, and Nintendo is one of those. And I've always bought the consoles since the NES, and I was genuinely disappointed at them. It was almost like there was just genuine disappointment where I know we're in a bridge where they've got a new console coming out, and I really want them to focus on it, because one thing that Nintendo kind of fails sometimes at is that console launch of games. You end up having one or two, and then you're waiting for a long time while they're building them. So I would rather their time, effort, and money be spent on making a really strong NX launch with about 4 or 5 titles. But at the same time, you've got to try and show some stuff. I mean, there were people, I've been checking out some reactions online and around the internet, and some people are like, this is going to keep me gaming for the rest of the year. I can't believe we've got Yuka Watch, and they were quite excited about all of that. But like I say, it's not for me. Yeah,
well, it just goes to show, there's horses for courses in all walks of life. I mean, it was great to see those insights. And and that's fantastic. But it's second-rate news. The whole thing was second-rate news. And you mentioned that fondness from Nintendo. And, Nintendo, well, Mario's 30 now. And a lot of us are over 30. Us gamers that have grown up and watched the industry evolve. And there's a lot of nostalgia there. And I sometimes feel, they're riding on that nostalgia ticket a little bit too much. They haven't had, like, a console with excessive hits. I can't even... Since the SNES, the N64 didn't have a great support. The GameCube, I love that GameCube. I love my GameCube so much, especially Rogue Leader. But it didn't have, and Resident Evil, the remake on that, so they had some great games, but not enough. And then the Wii, but that was more about the peripheral, and all of a sudden it was completely covered in shovelware, which, with the old Nintendo seal of quality thing, that should never have been allowed to happen, in the old days. And then we get onto the Wii U. The Wii U's I mean, this, what you get your console these days, your Nintendo console, and what do you want? You've got Mario, a new Mario, and a new Mario Kart, and that's pretty much it. That's what I've got for mine. I want Bayonetta 2, but I just haven't got round to playing it yet. But for me, once I've played Bayonetta 2, that's that console. That's that console. That's everything that's worth playing on that console. If you've got the others, if not, there's some multi-format stuff on there, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. I don't think Nintendo gets enough sort of the spotlight shone on it. It made a mistake with that Wii U, and it made a mistake with that gamepad. It hasn't been utilised correctly. Microsoft's got so much flack for throwing Kinect in with the Xbox One, and I've shouted about that before. But you know what? Nintendo, they did virtually the same with the Wii U. What a waste of time. It's not been utilised. If it was supported and used in the way that they expected, then maybe it would have been okay. But I haven't really seen anything that utilises that pad great. And when there is something that uses it, it usually distracts you from what's going on the screen to the detriment of the game. I'm talking about Kirby there. So basically, second-rate news, first-rate presentation. Nothing till NX.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I say, Yoshi's Woolly World was a highlight for me, but I've already pre-ordered it, so I'm already in. They have my money, and I don't want to see the same as Uncharted. I don't want to see any more of that. I want to work. I want to see that world for myself, and and the whole point of E3 is to show us new stuff. It's to show that new kind of shiny stuff. One of the predictions I had last week was that I had expected to see a glimpse of something of the NX. And there was nothing. They just right at the top said, we're not talking about NX, we'll talk about that next year, and then that was it. It was full of charm, but lacked substance. And it was it wasn't as bad as EA, but at least EA had Star Wars.
Yeah, but EA had Star Wars, didn't they? See,
Absolutely.
Like you say, what you always want,
yeah.
you want to be surprised. You want them to pull the rug from under your feet, like Shenmue 3, like Final Fantasy 7, like Last Guardian. Like, I can't remember the Microsoft stuff now because we've been talking for so long. But they didn't have any of that, and it was just a shame.
No, absolutely. Well, that kind of, I guess that wraps up our mammoth.
Yeah, we need to stop there. We could go on. There is more content.
We could go on. There are more, but
we need to do people a favour and ourselves and stop. It's been like 3.5 hours.
Absolutely. So all that remains to say is that's about it for this episode. We'd love to know what you thought of this episode. So please kind of send us an email. You can get us on feedback@gamersoflostspark.com. You can follow us on Twitter on twitter.com/lostsparkpod, where you'll also see kind of upcoming episodes. We always kind of announce those episodes on the Twitter as well. You can subscribe to iTunes, and you can also, if you're generous, you can leave us feedback and ratings. You can rate this episode, tell us if we went on for too long. Let us know if you agree with us. Let us know if you thought Nintendo was fantastic, or if you think Dreams is going to be a fantastic game. It would be great to hear from you. So until next week, it's goodbye from me.
Yeah, and goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, everybody. I echo everything Anthony says there. Let us know. Please give us some feedback. Let us know if what we're doing is what we're doing floats your boat. And until next time, goodbye.